All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the NFL Degenerate podcast. Guys, it's your division this week. We get to do the AFC West, guys, and it's fun. I think it's going to be fun for the Raiders. I actually think it's going to be fun to talk about them. I'm happy for you guys, honestly, more so than
Maybe for
myself.
the first time
but
in the history of us podcasting together, it might be
it
fun
has to
to
be,
talk
right?
about the
Because
Raiders.
when was the last,
All
20
we've done
was
is
it
complain about
2021 sort of, that weird wild card year with Bisaccia, or is that the last
Yeah,
time you
I
guys were
mean,
good?
that was the last time,
you
I
couldn't
think.
complain about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the
They
last
got
time there was reason to get excited. And even by the end of that year, it was that year, the most exciting year in the last 5 years was a giant roller coaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
so
many
there was a brief moment of excitement when McDaniels got fired, and then they went and beat the Chiefs on I think it was Christmas, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a brief moment of excitement there, but even that was in an 8-9 season, so.
Also worth noting, after that 2021 season where they did take the Bengals to the brink, they fired the entire coaching staff after.
Yeah.
And the GM.
I mean, what else do you do?
It's the Raiders' way.
Well, hopefully it's going to be a little bit different here with you guys. So.
No.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I have a tiny little bit of hope about that. We'll see how much I can really convince myself and you both of that, but we'll see. Also, of course, have to point out my tagline for this episode, I think, is very succinct about how I feel about the Raiders. I am a Geno Smith apologist at this point. We'll get into that. Also, Dalton, I agree with your statement that you're making today. Now, Casey and I did talk about the Micah Parsons situation on the show last night, and I feel the same way about it today. Is that I think Jerry Jones is a football terrorist, and we should all agree to get him out of here.
Did you guys see Skip Bayless's tweet about?
I didn't. I think I have him blocked on Twitter.
He said, "Okay, that's a very good decision." He said, I forgot the first part. It was 2 sentences. I forgot the first sentence, but the second sentence was I feel better against the Eagles now. And I was like, no, you don't.
I forgot that Skip Bayless is a Cowboys fan. I forgot.
Let me find the actual tweet.
Yeah, that's awesome that he.
It was the ultimate tweet for when your team makes a bad move and you don't want to admit it.
That's we'll get into it, but that's a trade on the defensive side that the Raiders made. Yeah. Over the summer that fans are trying to convince themselves is a good deal.
It's fine, guys. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I agree with Jerry. The Cowboys just got better on defense, and now I like their chances even better a week from tonight. That's his tweet. How can you possibly think they got better on defense?
You know what the rationale is that their run defense goes from probably the worst in the league to not embarrassing if Clark is good. And the problem with that is that's awesome. You're not going to be able to get off the field on the 3rd and 8 you create, though, when the best pass rusher you have is maybe rookie Donovan Ezra. That might, maybe. And there's other guys there that could be better than him, obviously, but that might be the best pass rusher on your team. Probably not going to get it done. That's
my thing is just at this point right now, if the move is to trade Parsons, why is Dak still on the roster?
Hey, somebody's got to throw to these receivers. That one of which is definitely not going to be on the team.
That's the thing.
Year.
You make you're all it. You are very clearly deluding yourself into believing your window is right now, which probably isn't. But everything else you're doing is indicating that you believe that and that you're trying to win right now. This is a punt move.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. When they go 7-10 next year, they're going to trade Dak to fucking I don't know who, and then they're going to just blow it all up, and then Jerry's going to probably die of embarrassment when everyone laughs at him.
As a fan of a team that traded an edge rusher who was the best in the game at that time for 2 first-round picks, it doesn't work out.
Well, the thing with that too, Jake, is you could at least make the argument, right, that the Raiders were just so poor at both money and as a franchise that they just wanted to cash in on the asset they had. It was a bad decision from a football perspective, but it was one that you could at least rationalize in other ways. Jerry Jones doesn't need to not give Micah Parsons $200 million. He would do that in his sleep. He doesn't give a shit about that. He just wanted it to happen his way, and his way was being a weirdo about it, which it always is. So that this is where you end up.
Yeah.
So that that's why, again, if this was about the NFC East, if we hadn't already done it, my tagline would probably be Jerry Jones is a football terrorist, because he wants to his message is nothing to do with football. It's all about how much attention can I possibly grab in the moment, and then maybe we'll pay the players like after it's not really ideal anymore, right? Like let's spend $100 million more on the cap than we need to, just because that's fun. It just whatever. So, but we've hashed that out enough. I think that we all know what this is like. It is what it is. Let's talk about your team, guys, the Las Vegas Raiders, what they have done over the offseason to try to turn this thing around a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean please, hopefully a lot, because it was not last year. That's kind of the main point of this. What did they do over the offseason? What changes they made? How do we feel about it? You guys know the deal. We've done this a couple times now. Coaching staff changes. Pretty much the whole thing, obviously, right? From across the board, except for one thing I do like that they did, keeping the defensive coordinator in place here. I do think Patrick Graham staying was a bit of a surprise to me, just because, again, like it feels like he just feels like he's being held hostage by this organization at this point. It's really weird. I don't really know what to do with it.
When he stayed, I was kind of surprised. I was like, why?
Here's what I don't get. The one coach that you want to keep, because I agree with keeping Patrick Graham. He's done a very good job with that defense,
absolutely.
With the lack of talent. But then why are you seeking out a defensive-minded head coach who doesn't run the same system as Patrick Graham and doesn't like the same personnel as Patrick Graham, especially when you have a bunch of players up for new contracts, and this guy comes in and says, you know what, I don't like all these guys because they're not 6'2", 230. I don't like them, so we're just going to get rid of them, and we're going to do this whole different thing that I like, and because it worked for me a decade ago when the landscape of the league was entirely different.
I like that we're already at this point, by the way, Dalton. I appreciate it.
It took one answer.
This is why it's awesome to have.
Nothing this organization ever does makes any sense. Nothing.
Yeah, this is why it's so much fun to have fans of the teams we're talking about on the show when we can, which like that'll be me in a couple of days. Well, really probably within the next week or so, because this is what we get. Because you're right, I understand.
The thing is, I've been a fan for a long time, but it's honestly gotten harder to watch since I started covering the team.
Oh yeah,
because
trust me,
you try to look at it from an objective lens, and you're like, oh, this actually makes zero sense. It's worse when you look at it objectively. Actually,
it is worse. Like, trust me, as someone who's covered the Steelers now for a while, I've only really covered this team since it's been bad to be covering this team. Like, pretty much like the second that it was no longer fun to cover this team is when I started doing it. That's been my experience as well. Now, different reasons than you have, but still, same
I would
thing.
Kill for the Steelers.
Oh, I know you. Again, not going to argue with you on that one. Certainly not going to go up to a Raiders fan and be like, man, you guys really have it good over there. I'm not going to say that, right? Especially wearing a Chiefs hat on the show. We're, again, not a Chiefs fan, just the only AFC West hat I had, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, coaching staff changes, though. Graham is the one that does stay. You do have Chip Kelly, which is so funny to think in 2025. I don't even dislike it. I just think it's funny that that's who the offensive coordinator is. I don't really know 100% how to feel about it, but he did a phenomenal job with Ohio State last year. I'm hopeful about it with the guys they brought in on offense.
I'm reserving judgment.
It's fair. And then, of course, we've talked about we've alluded to it. Pete Carroll is the head coach here, and I wanted to hope, or I felt like he was going to be just kind of the overseer type of head coach now, and not really meddle too much with their coordinators. Clearly, he wants his guys still on defense, as you said, with some of the moves they have made. So we'll have to definitely talk about that. But yeah, this coaching staff overall for both of you, where are you kind of at with how you feel the outlook of at least this season? Obviously, we'll focus on the season coming up. How do you feel about the outlook with the coaching staff specifically?
I'll let you go first, Jake.
Speaking as a Raider fan, I will say that I'm much more encouraged than in years past. Speaking objectively, I don't really know how to feel about it. And that comes from as a Raider fan, it comes from just, I mean, the last 3 head coaches I've seen start a season have been Antonio Pierce, who was incredibly unqualified, Josh McDaniels, who I don't even need to say anything about him, and then John Gruden, who, but we know how that went down. So I just think going from progressively getting worse from Gruden to McDaniels to Pierce and those staffs, I think it's a big step forward. So it's definitely encouraging in that way. But yeah, objectively, I need to see how week 1 goes, because I don't know. Dalton made a great point earlier about the kind of the confusion between Carroll and Patrick Graham, both on that defense. And part of me thinks it could be something similar to almost what the Steelers have with Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin, where like they have a defensive coordinator, but it's kind of the head coach that runs the show a bit there. But Patrick Graham, I think, is too good of a coordinator for that to happen. Good enough to the point where I'm kind of surprised that he stuck around. And then offensively, I think Chip Kelly will be more dynamic than the Raiders offense has seen in recent years, but that's not a high bar to clear. So I'm also a bit curious to see how that goes. So I would say heading into the season on the coaching staff, my outlook is optimistic, but very, very cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I get that.
And one thing, and you made the Tomlin comparison, which is good, but the thing with Tomlin that makes that make a little more sense, correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, Tomlin inherited a defensive coordinator when he got there, right, in Dick LeBeau?
Yeah.
Yes, he retained Dick LeBeau, and he had him run the same. Like, he didn't bring, like, that Tampa 2 style of defense that he grew up on in the NFL to Pittsburgh. He let that attacking 3-4, like that type of defense stuck around,
That's the thing. Like, the moves, like you said, I think at best this could be as good as the Carroll hire in a vacuum. I don't hate, like at least it's a proven head coach that knows how to run an NFL team. But the issue is, again, how long is he going to be there? And then both coordinators don't seem like head coaches, so I don't really know who the head coach in waiting is. I'm very worried that it's Carroll's son, Brian, who's the offensive line coach. I'm pretty convinced that's who the heir apparent is, and that worries me. But it just, to me, this just feels like every other year, literally every other year for the Raiders, where brand new regime, they're coming in, cleaning house, bringing in their guys, and within a few years, they're going to be gone. Both Pete Carroll, the coaching staff, and a guy we didn't mention yet, new GM and John Spytek, which, by the way, they just hired a new GM last year in Tom Telesco. Spytek now is, I believe, since 2020, he is the
fourth GM,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be fourth.
And if you go back if you go back to like 2018, he's the fifth GM.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
so all of that is why I'm very happy with the hire of Pete Carroll, just because if there's one thing he's been in his coaching career, it's stable. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be there for a long time. It just, with his age, it just doesn't make sense. And I do share the same worry that his son is going to take over. I'm actually very afraid of that. But I think, I don't mind it if he's only here for a couple of years, because if you look at you just said the fifth GM since 2018. I don't think, of all the bottom dwellers in the NFL, I can't think of another team that's had that many head coaches or that many GMs. I mean, it's just a turns table of
it's the fact that it's both, right? That's the thing that distinguishes
over
them.
and over and over again.
So I just, like, this franchise, I do not even care about winning this year. I could not give less of a shit what the record is. It is literally just create an identity and do not blow it up in the next 2 off seasons. And I think Pete Carroll is not the perfect coach, but a coach that can succeed in that role very well. So like first things first for this team, they just have to have some sort of stability. And so for that reason, I do like the Carroll hires. So that's kind of where most of my optimism is with the coaching staff, is just the sense that like this team might finally have an identity, and they might not. Like on this current pace, they're going to have a new head coach and a new GM in 2 years anyway. So if they can just avoid that, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah,
at least
and I think
one of those things too.
Yeah, at least one of them. Yeah. I like to think from just like an outside perspective, obviously, compared to you two, like the Raiders need to settle down as an organization in general, right? Like they need to stop with the constant shifting around and moving stuff around. They have to formulate a plan that is beyond the next 2 seasons, right? And I think while it's fair to wonder if Pete Carroll is going to try to get his son into that position eventually, I think as long as there is a plan, that's better than what they've been doing, right? Like that gives you some amount of like ability to forward think with this organization a little bit, right? And maybe if they do well enough with the pieces on defense this year and they can get some more, maybe Graham will be the guy that replaces Carroll. Maybe it'll. I don't want it to be Chip Kelly, but for a couple years, maybe it would be him. I don't know, but
I don't think Graham wants it.
Maybe not, right? And if that's the thing, then so be it. But like, if they have some sort of plan in place, because obviously you hire Pete Carroll to be your head coach, you're not planning for 6 years from now, right? You're planning 2-3 years at most in the future, which honestly for the Raiders is still fine. Like that's pretty good.
Better than what's going on right now.
Right. So like it is interesting. We'll see kind of how it plays out. And I do think what's interesting though, as far as the scheme here on defense, because you guys were talking about the fit with Carroll and Graham. I think the types of players they want obviously are different, but Graham very much is that cover 3 kind of defense. Like they ran the 6th most in the NFL last year. And that's obviously what Carroll has kind of made famous when he was in Seattle, is that cover 3 style defense. But the types of players within that defense is where they're kind of seemingly clashing a little bit, right? That's why you see some guys head out the door that maybe you shouldn't have wanted to leave, right? Especially, in the middle of that defense, I would say as well. Like, so.
Yeah.
And again, this is what comes from having new people getting brought in, because like Graham was like, yeah, these guys aren't gigantic, but they know how to play football. And now they're being replaced with a bunch of guys that are gigantic and have all the athletic ability in the world, but they're not really good at football.
Yeah, I think the departure of Jacorian Bennett is a terrific example of that, because that's very much Pete Carroll looking at him and being like, your arms aren't long enough. We're moving you to the Eagles. And like, yeah, he's not physically gifted, but he made so many strides last year. I don't think he's going to be one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL or anything, but he definitely is a piece to build around off that defense, especially a defense that lost Nate Hobbs, lost Robert Spillane, lost Javon Merrick, all the
linebackers,
all the linebackers, multiple stalwarts on the defense that worked well with Graham. Not in the building anymore. And I think Bennett is just a great example of what happens when you have so much turnover, because going in, that should have been, especially losing Nate Hobbs, Jacorian Bennett should have been somebody you build around. So yeah, things like that it's just frustrating.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, we'll get into the defensive moves later, I know. But like that's where I do feel like they lose me on terms of like the direction of the organization, because we're going to talk about what they did on offense here in a second. But we'll get into that.
The defense is where I am a little concerned, to say the least, in terms of the direction where they're going. But I do think overall there's reason for optimism with this team. We talked about the coaching staff. Let's talk about some of the offensive additions and just the moves that this team made overall. So as far as losses go, can I really say any of these guys that they lost are losses? I don't think so, like technically, because of how much they played. Amir Abdullah, Madison, Minshew, they all played, but like, are you going to miss them?
Yeah.
You have a trio of
I never need to watch Gardner Minshew play football ever again.
No, don't worry. With the Chiefs, when he plays, he'll be great because it's the Chiefs.
Oh God,
no,
nothing is going to frustrate me more.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't even think Andy Reid can make him look good, especially with that roster. I don't think Andy Reid can make that Minshew look good on that team.
That's fair.
No.
Maybe not. But you also lose a trio of interior offensive linemen, none of whom played particularly well for this team. Andre James, Andres Pete, and Cody Whitehair. So all guys that were either depth or starters that you need to replace. That
James is up and down.
Job. Yeah,
James had
good
some
career
good
overall, but not really last year. I'd say for the most part.
Yeah.
So really, again, not much to speak of in terms of losses. You do bring back Jordan Meredith on the offensive line for depth, so we'll see there. But.
And that's the thing, like losing Andre James, not a big deal because like we had a new center ready and waiting to go to take over. Former Remington winner. He's playing guard.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? Whatever.
When I say these things out loud,
I think he's a good player. He'll be fine, but it would be nice.
I think I would rather have him as center, but I do think he'll be fine.
I think he'll be a good player. But I understand the frustration.
Just don't get it.
As someone who has had offensive linemen play in the wrong position most of the time in the recent years for his team, it's a frustration that I can understand and I share. But again, good players, I think overall there.
Yeah.
This is where it gets fun.
One of the greatest college centers of all time, objectively.
It's very good. Very good. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. I have a feeling that may change at some point during the year. We'll see. But if it doesn't, it's hopefully because it's working. So maybe you live with it. But some additions on offense through either trade or free agency. Let's start there. Geno Smith is obviously the big one here. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a reason why my tagline is what it is. I think this is about as big of an upgrade as anyone could possibly make at quarterback this offseason. Considering what now, granted, you could say the Titans, we don't know what Cam Ward is going to be. Will Levis was horrendous, but also Cam Ward's a rookie. As far as like actual like translatable upgrade that you can really kind of almost guarantee, really hard to have upgraded from a position better than Gardner Minshew / Desmond Ridder / Aiden O'Connell. RIP to him, by the way.
I forgot about Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder briefly. To Geno Smith. Yeah, kind of almost regardless of how you feel about Geno Smith, it's still one of the biggest upgrades the team could have made in the offseason. That gives me a lot of hope for this offense in particular because I think the quarterback play is going to be above average here for the first time since, I guess, the better version of Derek Carr that we saw at one point. Like,
I think 2021 was the last time that they had above average QB play.
Yeah. Right.
Carr in the first year of McDaniels was pretty average. So it's definitely been a good probably about 3 years.
Yeah, if not more.
But Smith, I'm so excited about because this offense has just not had the ability to throw the ball deep accurately at all. Like they have not done that in 3 years. And Carr did it in 2022, but he was not as good that year. And just with Jimmy Garoppolo, Aiden O'Connell, any of the terrible quarterbacks you want to put in that list, none of them have been able to push the ball down the field. And so I think that alone, and we'll get into some of the receivers they added as well, which I'm excited about. But I just think the offense is going to be opened up in so many more ways than it was last year. Because last year, it at times had to be one-dimensional, and that one dimension of running the ball was also terrible. So I'm so excited to have the chance to connect on a post down the field or something. Like the Raiders just have not been able to do that in so long.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I like the Smith movement, like you said about Carr. Like, yeah, it's probably. I mean, the McDaniels years were rough. Part of that is too Josh McDaniels took away from Derek Carr the one thing that Derek Carr does really well, which is his ability to make adjustments pre-snap. And McDaniels took a lot of that away from him. But yeah, I think the Raiders are finally back to where they were during the Carr era, where they have a fringe 10 to 15 range quarterback. That's kind of what they're getting, I think, with Smith. And that's good quarterback play. Like you can build a winning team with that level of quarterback play. So that's probably the best move they made the entire offseason was making that trade and being aggressive. I think we'll talk more about what they did on the defensive side of the ball and how it doesn't really mesh with making this trade for a quarterback in his 30s that probably only has a couple more years of high-level quarterback play in him. But, you know, in a vacuum, the Smith move, and I'm not a big Geno Smith fan, but I think in a vacuum, it's a good move.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot to talk about that. We'll talk about what that means with some of the other additions they made, specifically in the draft. Other notable names, like I don't know how much, if any, he's going to make an impact, but Raheem Mostert's on this team for some reason. That's interesting. Maybe he can still be a decent
2023 touchdown leader.
Raheem Mostert. Right. Feels like a long time ago at this point.
Amari Cooper's back.
Yes, he is back as well. I don't know how much I care about that yet. But it is nice to have some more receiver depth on this team. So
especially if Jacoby Myers might be gone, which again,
dude
doesn't mesh well with any of their other moves, and
I just can't.
Yeah, there's got to be a way to get that deal done. I mean, I get like allegedly his asking price right now is a 2-year, $60 million extension. But
he's not. Yeah, he's not holding out. Like he's still practicing.
Yeah.
So he should be out there. He just requested a trade, but he's not like away from the organization.
No, yeah, and like guess what? Like you need him. You need Jacoby Myers, dude. I'm sorry. Like I listen. You will not find a much bigger fan of Jack Bech than me, right? I don't want him to have to be like the de facto, like actual number one wide receiver for this team outside of Brock Bowers. Like that's not something I want from a second round rookie wide receiver. So yeah, you need Jacoby Myers on the team, dude. Like pay the man if you have to, Davis. I know you don't like paying people money because you don't have any somehow, but whatever. Like you have to figure that one out. I'm sorry. Like as soon as I saw his name on the trade block, I'm like, Steelers, please, hello, is this thing on? That would be awesome right now. They're not going to do it, but that's the point. Like this can't happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're going to give him an extension, but like I don't know. To me, it seems pretty easy. Like you take the $60 million and spread it out over this. You give him a raise to $20 million a year this year, and just do that again for 2 more years. Throw some incentives in there, and it should be fine. I don't get why this is so hard.
Well, what are you going to do?
You can say that about a lot of
people play there.
Maybe, yeah. But let's talk about the draft picks this team made on offense. Many to talk about here that I think are notable. Obviously, you start with Ashton Jeanty at 6th overall. I felt like going into the draft that if the Raiders didn't take him, it was going to be the Bears or someone in that same range. Like this was going to be a top 10-ish pick, regardless. I think the Raiders taking him is interesting because I wasn't really sold 100% on this being the move solely because their offensive line and their ability to run block is kind of on the fringe of whether I think you've allowed yourself the ability to draft a running back in the top 10. Like that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I do think he's going to be such a huge upgrade that it honestly doesn't matter. Like I'd still take him because of how much better he makes the offense on the ground compared to what you guys had, especially. It'd be different if you had like a solid like top 20-ish running back and he was good enough and you wanted to build up the offensive line first but like you guys had nothing going on running back last year. Quite literally nothing. I mean, I don't even know who led this team in rushing even last year. I couldn't tell you. Was it Abdullah?
Probably Madison, I would think.
Was it Madison still? Like,
it might have been. I think probably Zamir White just on volume.
Was it? Because, like, I just couldn't tell you. Like, because the point is, the fact that I couldn't tell you, that's the problem, right? Like, so this move makes a lot of sense. And I think it's the identity, obviously, part of it, too. Like, they want to be a team that can run the hell out of the football. If you were going to do that, can't really do much better than taking Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah.
Madison had 420 yards, and that led the offense.
Oh
Second place was Amir Abdullah with 311.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was him.
How many did Zamir White have?
I just closed it. Let me go back. My bad.
183.
183. How many carries?
65. He averaged 2.8 yards per carry. Amir Abdullah almost had twice as many rushing yards as him on the same amount of carries.
Just from watching games, I feel like he ran the ball so many times to have only 180 rushing yards. That's insane.
Yeah, that's why I thought it had to be him because he was the lead back for most of the year.
So this is the funny thing, all right? Sincere McCormick had 39 carries and had the exact same amount of yards as Amir Whitehead.
No.
He also had only one less touchdown.
By the way, just got cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always be a Sincere McCormick fan. He was how many yards per carry did he rush for? He had 4.7.
Which didn't Zamir White made the team, didn't he, Jake?
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Sure.
Why?
I don't understand, but again, a lot of turnover, that's what happens.
So
I'm
going to check something real quick because it's really funny to me. I got to check this. Hold on. What was his?
I mean, what Amir White done to still be on an NFL roster?
I don't know. So
I don't
Amir Abdullah
really good games 2 years ago.
Maybe he was fast coming out of college.
And all he did is run straight ahead in those 4 games. The O line just got better.
Sometimes you can block well enough. Whatever. No, so Saquon Barkley last year, who obviously 2,000 yard season, you love that. His rushing success rate was 52.5%. Obviously, huge number for a running back.
That's the gold standard.
Yeah, Amir Abdullah had 50% success rate on runs last year. That's hilarious to me. I'm sorry.
Amir Abdullah was by far the best back on the roster.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not even close. Yeah. Not even close. And that's again, terrible. That sucks. Nothing against Amir Abdullah. That's not good. You can't. That's not workable. I'm sorry.
I think Amir Abdullah would agree that he shouldn't be the best back on any team.
No, I think he probably agrees with that. Last time he was the best back on a team was Nebraska. So that's all you need to know about that. So Genty pick makes a ton of sense. Jack Besh, again, I alluded to him earlier. Really like him out of TCU personally. I think, especially if Myers isn't going to be on this team for long, he makes sense as kind of in that role as this bigger slot player that has run after catch ability, tough guy, going to catch pretty much everything. Like, not going to burn you deep. He won't be doing that really, but he can win in a lot of other ways as a receiver. And I think that's why they also bring in at receiver, skipping over a couple of offensive line we'll talk about in a second, Dante Thornton, the wide receiver out of Tennessee, who, if there's anything he can do, it's to run down the field real fast. And apparently been pretty good in camp from what I've heard and in the preseason. So we'll see how that goes. But those two receivers being brought in, as well as the running back, I do think raises the floor of this offense a little bit. And potentially, if these guys hit the ceiling as well.
Yeah. I was lower on Betch than I know both of you guys when we were doing the draft show. But I mean, and so far in camp, it seems like he's just going to be a little bit of a developmental guy. He's probably going to start the year out as with Amari Cooper now. I mean, he might be wide receiver 4 or 5. And yeah,
looks like it. Yeah,
probably 5 right now because I would assume Cooper and Tucker will both be ahead of him, and Dante Thornton, I mean, really is kind of made up for that Betch pick in my opinion because of how talented he's been right out of the gate. I think I'm curious to see what it looks like, especially the separation once he's playing NFL starting corners. But I mean, when you're that big and that fast, separation doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, you can burn. Like, he'll have his role, I think, this year.
Yeah,
but I think especially with the weapons, like there's at least like enough guys with different skill sets that I think complement each other really well.
Yeah,
and then obviously Brock Bowers is going to be the focal point in the passing game anyway. Yeah. So
he's the number 1 receiver, really.
Yes, yeah. And then you do bring in Caleb Rogers at guard at Texas Tech and Charles Grant, the tackle out of William & Mary, who Rodgers, I didn't really watch much at all, admittedly, and then Charles Grant, I did. I did like that pick as a developmental offensive lineman. We'll see what those guys end up looking like. Doesn't look like they're really in line for any playing time this year. But with the guys in front of them, especially, we'll see what happens with Power Johnson long term. I do hope he ends up the center long term. But DJ Glaze was surprisingly good as right tackle last year as a rookie. We'll see if he can keep that job long term too. But you have a lot more depth here than you guys had last year.
Yeah, they did just bring in a new swing tackle, though. I'm very concerned about it. Glaze and Colton Miller need to stay healthy.
Yeah, Stone Forsythe is he's one of the offensive linemen of all time.
Such an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm going to tell you is if you're a Raiders fan, if you want to see what Stone Forsythe is about, watch, I think, the second 49ers Seahawks game last year. And Nick Bosa probably should have had that man retire at halftime. So I'm going to say it was not a fun watch. I'm pretty sure he had like 12 pressures in that game or something like that. It was pretty ridiculous. So, yeah, hopefully he doesn't have to play. I might still take the rookie there. Yeah.
Speaking of the rookies, not super familiar. I mean, Charles Grant, we talked about during the draft process a lot.
I was a fan of his.
I think he's a solid developmental tackle. But what's his name? Rodgers. The only thing I've seen of Rodgers is actually watching tape on this upcoming year's prospects, because I was watching David Oke out of Abilene, formerly out of Abilene Christian, now out of Arkansas, eat his lunch. So that's the only thing I've seen. So we'll see. Now, I mean, that's still a good player that you're going up against, but I'm curious to see what he looks like. Preseason was okay. The rookies didn't look bad in preseason, relative to the starters, who did not look great.
Yeah,
part of that is this blocking scheme is just weird. I feel like there's a lot of – I feel like offensive linemen in this blocking scheme – I don't know what you thought, Jake. I feel like the offensive linemen have to move a lot to get to where they need to be and open up holes. Like, there's a lot of scraping, and, like, they're not just stepping and sealing. They're, like, having to move a lot, and I just don't know. If it's going to work, it's going to take a while, I think, for it to gel.
I was kind of gonna say the same thing. It's gonna be a work in progress. It looked terrible against the Seahawks. I think Genty ran the ball 3 times in that game, and I swear he was facing someone behind the line on like all of them. But it did look better in the second game, I thought, against the 49ers. Things looked solid when the starters were in against the Cardinals in the third game.
I don't think the Cardinals had starters in.
Starters weren't in for long, and the Cardinals did not have starters. And then after our starters came out, we just didn't do anything on offense for the rest of the game. So I don't, preseason is weird. I don't know how much to take from that, but I think it will be an adjustment. I think with this offensive line, it is just so important that the starters stay healthy. I don't want to count on Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant too early. Yeah. I really don't want to do that. I really do not want to see Stone Forsythe on the field. According to PFF, in 2024, he had the 132nd out of 140 eligible tackles, offensive or overall grade at 43.
There's guys worse than him.
His pass blocking grade was 124th, and his run blocking grade was 113th. So he did nothing well. I mean, I guess you could say silver lining, but I guess you could say that Geno Smith knows how to have success behind a bad offensive line. Yeah. But that's not the position that you want to put him in. And that's not a silver lining that you want to talk about.
Admittedly, so, it was interior pressure.
That's just what I tell myself to feel a little better. That's what I tell myself, but that's not a situation you want to be in. So they badly need this unit to stay healthy.
Yeah.
This might take away from that.
Oh, one move I forgot to talk about on offense. Also, before I even mention this one, the other draft picks here. Tommy Malone, I think, is on the practice squad, as is Cam Miller, I believe. Did they all get?
Miller did. Malott did not.
He's on the Patriots, I think.
Oh, is he on the Patriots now? Okay.
That
feels right. That feels right.
Spytek talked about it. His reasoning was that his argument was that it turned out that Malot's where he's at in his transition from quarterback to wide receiver didn't match up with the organization's timeline.
So basically,
nice.
Call him a bomb.
Draft somebody, use a draft pick on somebody, have them change position in their first offseason.
Yeah,
and then when they don't change it well enough, just get rid of them. Just
yeah.
That's
interesting.
That was such a head scratcher for me, taking Miller and Malone back to back in the 7th round. That just didn't make any sense to me.
And I don't know how Miller cleared waivers because I thought he had a decent preseason. To be honest, I was surprised he cleared waivers. And also, why are you waiving him when you could have just very easily just stuck Aiden O'Connell on IR?
Well, the thing is, that's the other move that you didn't talk about. That's what I was going to say. The biggest move of the offseason, you got Kenny Pickett on the team.
Shane, I cannot believe Kenny Pickett is on my
listen. Yeah, Jake, I apologize to you personally. Yeah, you somehow always end up having to deal with something related to the Steelers in some way, shape, or form.
I don't know who I'd rather watch, Kenny Pickett or Gardner Minshew.
Well, here's the thing about Gardner
Kenny
Minshew,
Pickett.
right?
Kenny Pickett.
The thing about Gardner is that Gardner has so little physical ability that he, even if he knows what to do, it just doesn't matter. Kenny doesn't have the worst physical traits in the NFL or anything like that, but the dude is just a bonehead, just a straight up bonehead. So at least sometimes he'll do something cool, but then the next minute he fumbles the ball trying to throw it, which I don't really know what to do with that, honestly, but I don't know. I will say, pretty sure I confirmed recently that I do in fact have bigger hands than Kenny Pickett. Not great whenever I'm 8 inches shorter than him. Not awesome for him that's the case.
Yeah, he does have absurdly small hands.
He needs to get Jack Kelly's gloves.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. So yeah, you guys have a backup quarterback that's been traded three times.
You know what I will say? I'm more excited. Well, excited is a very strong word. I don't think I should use that, but I will take Kenny Pickett over Aiden O'Connell if something was to happen to Geno Smith. Because I've just seen Aiden O'Connell play enough football. I don't need to see him.
That's fair. Different bad is sometimes better than.
I don't think he's good at all. But in terms of a backup, he might be a better option than what we had. So I get that, but I would have rather just. I mean, you could keep Miller there instead of moving. Or Miller might be the third QB.
I think he's the emergency. Is he the practice? Is he on the practice squad or the emergency quarterback at this point?
Miller is on the practice squad, I believe, but he'll be the emergency quarterback. Yeah.
Right, so he'll be brought up for that purpose. Hopefully Kenny doesn't get into a game, but I will say you do have a Super Bowl champion on the roster. There you go. Let's move on to the defense here, and unfortunately, not as much fun to say about this part of things. Notable names no longer here. Matthew Butler, Caleb Chase on a solid season for you guys. Obviously, Divine Diablo, Robert Spillane, the entire linebacker core, basically, like Dalton earlier. Yep, Masterson's out of here. Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs, Marcus Epps, Trayvon Mark. Just about everybody of note not really here anymore, except for in the front four, really. And also Isaiah Pullman, I guess, right?
Isaiah Pullman, who played a lot the last 2 years because Epps could never stay healthy.
Right.
So, Epps was the one guy I thought, made sense. He was moving on. Pullman was moving up, and he'd be a great pairing with Merrick. Instead,
we got bag from the Panthers. There we go.
But you good, Jake.
I don't hate these moves until it comes to defending the pass. In terms of stopping the run, I thought they made some solid pickups. I mean, Landon Roberts is one of the best run stoppers of all linebackers in the league. I like Jermaine Pratt. I don't trusting this linebacker core to defend the pass really just scares me. That's the biggest thing for me.
Because Pratt isn't the same athlete he was. Landon Roberts has never been an athlete other than really running hard in a line straight at you. Jamal Adams is his linebacker on this team. That's interesting.
I also don't mind him. Yeah, Devin White. What are we?
Yeah.
Jamal Adams, known for his coverage ability.
I mean, hey, if he's a linebacker, he gets.
In the role that I think they're going to use him in. I don't mind Jamal.
Jamal is the third edge rusher. Actually, guys, that's what his role. Remember when he had like 9.5 sacks for the Seahawks that one year? What was that about? Who decided that was a thing that was going to be a thing? Anyway, again, I just want to talk about the re-signings you guys did have there too. Adam Butler comes back in here. Charles Snowden is a weird player, but he's in. I don't really know what to do with him, but he's an interesting.
When he has depth, it's whatever.
Yeah, Malcolm Kuntz. It's good to get him back here with Crosby pairing with him. Darnay Holmes? Question mark.
This is a defense that really could have brought back
a lot more. Yeah,
Chasen. I don't know why he's not like co-oping Chasen.
Well,
he so could have been brought back on this defense. If you're gonna bring back Charles Snowden, I feel like especially with Kuntz coming off, missing a whole year with an ACL. I just think they could have used some extra depth there.
Yeah, Eric Stokes is one of the free agent additions here. What a just NPC corner, dude. I'm sorry. Yeah. All I'm saying is I know it's been a rough I think preseason for him, but Darren Porter better be good real fast. That's all I'm gonna say. Because
he will not be good.
Depth chart, is it Caillou Blue Kelly? Is that his name?
Caillou Blue Kelly, yeah.
He's the starting outside corner right now, opposite Eric Stokes.
No, they're gonna have an open competition during the first game. Allegedly, that's what's happening. They're gonna be rotating guys in, trying to figure out who's gonna lock down that spot between like Porter, Kelly, and Degenerate Richardson.
You know who did play well last year? That was coming back on the roster before they traded him away.
Oh, yeah, I do know.
Who might have kept you from having to have an open competition during week 1 of the NFL season? I don't. Why are you getting rid of Jacorian Bennett when this is your cornerback group? I just don't understand that at all. And I'm a huge Darian Porter fan.
Me too.
He's so new, I think, into the position change that I don't think he's going to be great.
It's asking a lot.
I think it's asking a lot, and I think it will work out over time, but it won't happen soon. And I also really like Degenerate Richardson, but same with him. It's gonna be some time. So it is so hard for me to look at this secondary, just looking at the depth chart, and think that they don't need Jacorian Bennett. It's even when this team has like a regime that I somewhat trust, they still just do things, and I'm like, why? Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like Chris Smith getting a chance here. I do. At safety, but I mean, Jeremy Chin is your nickel. He had a good year for Washington last year, but like, I don't know.
Again, Merrick would have looked
almost
really
like they had a
versatile.
Yeah,
and that's the thing with these moves that doesn't make sense with the guys they let walk. You make Pete Carroll your head coach. You trade for Geno Smith. You spend a top 10 draft pick on a running back. All of these moves say that you are trying to win relatively soon.
Yeah.
Why are you balking at? I mean, Spillane got $12 million a year.
Yeah, that's like, not a lot of money, guys.
It's not a lot. Like, it's a going.
Every Raider fan tried to justify it by saying, like, "Oh, they weren't going to pay him that much." And it's like, why?
It's like, why would you not, though? He's been really good.
They have the space. It made no sense. And same with Merrick. Merrick, yeah, he got a pretty hefty deal, but again, that's the going rate for a high-end
starting safety. Yeah, starting caliber safety.
Especially a very good starting caliber safety, which he was by most metrics. And when on the field, he was a very good safety.
Yeah.
Same with Nate Hobbs, one of the better nickels in the league. You know, he got pretty good money, that's what it takes to get good players. Like, you have to pay them. That's the thing. The whole thing is when you draft well, you need to then reward your guys. But the problem is it's hard to do that when there's a new regime every 2 years and they have no familiarity with the guys that are coming up for these new contracts. And it's very frustrating to watch the turnover. And like, that's the thing, like, it'd be so much easier to be excited about the offense and the coaching staff if the moves on the defensive side of the ball aligned with that. But you can't have any consistency and alignment when you do this every 2 years. And because they didn't bring these guys back, the defense probably isn't going to be very good. And guess what? That might mean Pete Carroll and this regime is gone in a couple of years, because that's what they were, because he's a defensive-minded head coach. And like, it just, I mean, the linebackers, I don't hate the moves they made. I think pairing Jermaine Pratt or Landon Roberts with Spillane, or even like Roberts and Diablo, would have made a decent pairing, I think.
Yep.
But like, but again, the things they're doing just don't make a lot of sense. They're just going after size, and that worked great a decade ago. It's a different league. Linebackers, good teams don't have a core of linebackers that are the size of a Landon Roberts anymore. They just don't. Like, having one of those guys works.
Yeah.
But he and Jermaine Pratt are very similar players. So they're both guys that are going to be good against the run. They're going to be liabilities in coverage.
The biggest thing for me is I look at this defense, right? And I can pretty much say that, like, there's two players that I have some level of confidence in being above average players, and one of them is coming off of an ACL injury. So, like, your starting edge rushers, I like that. The rest of it, I don't know if I can confidently say are average starters in the NFL.
Adam Butler's a good defensive tackle.
He is.
Adam Butler's
but his teammate next to him is Thomas Booker the fourth right now, who I'm not really sure what to do with that. Like,
because if we don't say this, all Raider Nation will talk about on the tweet of this episode is going to be that the Booker trade was worth it because Booker is turning out well. Meanwhile, Booker is going to rotate in with the defensive tackles. He's probably going to play 30 or 40 snaps a game. Is that really worth giving up a starting corner?
No, not with the corner room looking like it is right now. Yeah.
I don't get how you can possibly justify that.
Yeah. Last thing to talk about before we get into expectations, win total range. We do have Tonka Hemingway and JG Pajue in here in the interior defensive line. Technically a fullback too, if you want with Pajue. That could be fun, maybe. Have some fun with that. Not sure if they've done that. I haven't followed that at all, if they've given him any reps there.
Not that I've heard.
Makes me sad, personally. Whatever. That's the Raiders for you. And Cody Lindenberg was drafted. I don't know what to do with him. So I don't know. This defense is going to be hopefully just not the worst in the league is kind of, I think, at this point. With Graham coaching it, I think it'll probably be above the very bottom, but we'll see. Expectations for 2025, guys. We spent a lot of time on this team, obviously, for good reason. The other teams will not take as much time to talk about, not as much changes over there. But expectations for 2025, Jake, I want to start with you. What do you hope happens with this team, or what do you expect out of this team in 2025?
Number one, you need some encouragement, I think, from the defensive side of the ball, whether it be Malcolm Kuntz, looking like he did before his ACL injury, or Tyree Wilson finally taking, another step forward, or just the secondary or linebackers not being that bad. I think that's something they need. I don't know that that's going to happen. I think the most realistic expectation for this team is probably they're going to run the ball a lot. I think they will run the ball well. I think they're going to have a good offense. I think there's a lot of tools there. I really like the receiver room that they have right now. I guess you include Brock Bowers in that. I think their running game should be a lot better. I know Raheem Mostert isn't what he once was, but he's a better option than I think anybody they had last year when he's healthy. Ashton Jennings going to get a ton of carries. So I think the offense will be much better. The defense, I expect to be like, I think the ceiling for this defense is like average. I don't see a lot of encouragement there. I know Patrick Graham does more with less a lot, and maybe that's why they're just trading these guys away and letting them go, because they're like, oh, we have a defensive coordinator that can have a 16th ranked defense with anybody. But I don't know if this is going to be like the old Raider teams with a good offense and a defense that just lets anybody score whatever. And I think you're going to see some really average to slightly below average football this year. So I would say those are my expectations.
Yeah.
What do you got, Dalton?
So yeah, I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I think ultimately what the goal is this year, I think for this organization is, I think the message from the top down is that this year doesn't matter ultimately. And that's what the moves to me indicate. But that they want to look like a respectable team, because they didn't last year. Like, they just didn't. They looked like an absolute clown show for a lot of the season last year. So I think the goal is to be respectable looking on both sides of the ball, demonstrate competency, build positive momentum, figure out who like the centerpieces of the franchise are going to be moving forward, and go from there. But I don't think this team is going into this year. I think a lot of people, because of the Smith trade and the Carroll and the Carroll hiring, I think a lot of people were expecting be in the playoff mix right away, and I think that might be a little bit out of reach. I don't know. I don't think it's completely off the table, but I don't think it's something that should be expected this year.
Yeah, I think my expectations for this team is just to settle things down, kind of like I said, to get into a place where they feel comfortable about the direction, learn what you can about these players, both the players you already had on the roster and the players that you've added, and kind of act accordingly, and not in a way of like, oh, we won 5 games, fire everyone. Don't do that shit, Mark. Get out of here. That's pretty much my expectation, is for them to not do the Raiders thing, which is overreact to everything that happens and then flip out and do weird shit. That's really all I can expect for this team until they prove otherwise, honestly. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Also, a note that we didn't have, because it was such a weird thing, I think we all just like forgot about it for a second. Christian Wilkins not on this team anymore for weird stuff going on there. That's all I'm going to say there. Yeah, so that's part of why the interior defensive line depth is not as good. Let's talk about win total range here. I will actually go first because I want to see what you guys have to say after me here. But I think they could still be a pretty bad football team in 2025 because of the defense. Like, I do trust Graham to keep it from cratering as far as it probably has the right to. But if the offense is just okay, like, is this defense going to be anything more than like the 25th best unit realistically? Maybe not, right? Like, that's kind of where their floor could be. I could see them winning only like 5 games in 2025 realistically. Now, I think if you hit every green light possible, I think you'd be happy with 9. Like, if the offense is really good and the defense is respectable in a tough division, which we're going to talk about the rest of these teams, I think getting to 9 wins is fair. It's on the fringe of playoff contention. 10 is really asking a lot in the AFC, especially in the division they play in. You're going to have to do better than probably 3-3-ish in the division, which is possible, but it's tough with these teams that we're going to talk about next year. So I think I'm happy putting 9 as the ceiling this year.
Yeah. 9 was my prediction when the schedule first came out. I'm kind of a little cooler since then, just after seeing preseason and camp. But ultimately, I'm still leaning as my floor. I think 6 wins, some a little higher, just because I think the quarterback play is so much better.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna get them. I mean, there were so many games last year where just average quarterback play would have won them the game. And I don't think the defense, even if the defense is disappointing, a big thing to remember with the defense is that a lot of the guys that we talked about them missing were hurt a lot last year.
Yeah.
So from a talent perspective, it still probably won't be that bad, just because even if these guys don't pan out, just because last year they had so many injuries. I do think they were more of a 6-win team last year than a 4-win team. So I think 6 is the floor for them this year. The ceiling, if things really bounce their way, I could see 10. But like originally, my original prediction for the year was they were going to be 9-7 going into the last game of the season, playing the Chiefs, both teams in the mix for a wild card spots, and the Chiefs beat them in a close one.
Fair enough.
If I have something like that to look forward to in the last week of the year, I'll be so happy.
Yeah, absolutely. If they win 9 games, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 5 to 8. I think this is one starting QB injury away from being a really bad team.
Oh yeah,
you could say that.
Would be interesting.
Yeah, you could say that for a lot of teams in the league, but I really think this team could be bad. Dalton makes a good point about the defense missing a lot of players. I mean, I think Max Crosby only played like 4 or 5 games last year.
Well, he played games, just barely played any healthy games. Is the thing?
Yeah,
he played like 10 or 11.
Or no, he missed
maybe like 2 or 3 of them were good. Max Crosby games.
Yeah.
Like
I had to tune myself out of the Raiders halfway through.
That's fair.
If you can't tell, but
yeah, that's fair.
I think this could be a really bad defensive team, and potential is high on the offense. For that reason, I do think they could go 8 and 9. I don't think they have enough talent to win 9 games with their division being as good as it is and the AFC as a whole being as good as it is. If they win 9 games, I'll be ecstatic with that. But I think this is a average to slightly below average team, so I'm going to go 5 to 8.
Fair enough. All right. We're going to move on to the third place team in this division, the Denver Broncos, who surprised a lot of people last year. Quite frankly, I still don't really know what to do with the Broncos. I have like very few strong takes on this team, but I do think that they're going to be a better version of what they were last year. This year, it's just, is that going to equal necessarily more wins and also more overall success? That's kind of the question, I think, because this division is as strong as it is. But as far as coaching staff changes, none to really speak of. This staff was very good last year. Sean Payton has kind of dialed things in here since coming over, so I think that they're happy with where they're at on the staff. His addition has obviously been very fruitful for this organization after the turmoil they had with like the Nathaniel Hackett situation, Russell Wilson. It was not so great. So he's certainly kind of brought things to a head and made it stable, I would say. And now it's about how much upside does this coaching staff and this team actually have with Peyton heading it up. So that's kind of what the main conversation would be.
Yeah, I mean this team definitely trending in the right direction.
Yeah,
which pains me to say, really.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I was very happy during the Russell Wilson days because it was
I'm sure you were.
This team, they got a new head coach and a new QB and they still suck. But no, they're very stable. This is what I would like the Raiders to become in a couple of years. But yeah, I have a lot to say, but I'll save that for the offensive and defensive sections.
Yeah, again, the coaching staff, nothing really to note here. Let's talk about offensive moves. So as far as big ones, like especially outside of the draft, where I think they made a couple of big moves, there's a few to talk about, but not anything I would say that's overly spectacular. I do think the addition of Evan Ingram after being cut by the Jaguars could be huge for this team. We know how much Peyton likes to have that like joker role as a tight end, a guy who can be out in space, kind of be a de facto wide receiver. That's something that could be very interesting because they just did not really have that last year with this team, and I don't think they were going to get it any other way. Maybe they could have attacked it in the draft, obviously, but the two top guys went before they were picking anyway, so might have been tough to do that. They do bring in as well J.K. Dobbins, who may or may not be this team's starting running back to start the year. I really don't know how they're going to work this running back group, and it's partly because of what they did in the draft. We'll talk about that in a minute, but that's definitely, as far as moves that they made, external moves, the two that I think, especially those two, mean the most, I think, for this team.
Yeah. It's hard to get super excited about the offensive moves the Broncos made. Personally, to me, I think it was pretty clear last year. Like, we saw Bo Nix looked solid. I think Bo Nix, at least for me, looked like we expected. Came out of the gate pretty competent pretty quickly. Little bit of rookie growing pains here and there, but I think he's generally what he's going to be. And I think it's clear he is only ever going to be as good as the rest of your offense is. So the offensive line, they're bringing back everybody, which is great.
Best pass blocking unit in the league last year.
Yeah,
by the way,
best offensive. One of the best offensive lines in the league. That was so actually recently for the Raider Ramble, I did. I did for the offseason position power rankings for every position group. Offensive line, Broncos were number 1 in the division. Every other spot, they were 4th. That's the issue. And they did nothing to help Bo Nix. Other than, Evan Ingram kind of is.
I like that move in general. If he's healthy. Pat Bryant, we haven't talked about the draft picks yet, but he's looked really good too. Like, I don't know what his upside is. I kind of had him as more of like a 4th, 5th round receiver because I thought of him as kind of like a very general X receiver, but he looked good and Peyton liked him, so we'll see.
Yeah, all these receivers moving around though this offseason, I feel like they could have been a little more aggressive. Also
trade away Vele, by the way, who was a surprise contributor last year. That was interesting to me. But
maybe Sean Payton sees what I saw last year in Troy Franklin. But
maybe.
I don't know. He didn't look great last year. I'm starting to be willing to take the L on that.
Hey, by the way, we haven't talked about this at all, and I didn't want to bring it up because I don't know what it's going to mean, especially considering where he signed. But Isaiah Bond is back on the table potentially. Back on the table for you potentially, Dalton, as far as it being a good take of how his talent was. Now landing with the Browns, I don't know. Not sure about that.
He would go to the Browns.
So we'll see about that. But just throw that out there, another receiver situation. That one at least not really your fault. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with that. But anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, I don't know. This wide receiver room's pretty rough. Unless Marvin Mims takes gigantic strides.
He's a fun player. I don't know if he's necessarily a super.
I'm a big Marvin Mims fan.
Yeah. Very fun player.
I really like him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of RJ Harvey, which I know you guys are both a little higher on than I was coming out. I think he could look good for the next 2-3 years. I'll give him that. But
the landing spot helps for sure.
Yeah.
For him.
But that's kind of the best I think you can hope for there. I don't see a ton of talent on this offense, and I don't think Bo Nix is the kind of quarterback that's going to elevate anybody on this roster. I would have liked to see them bring in somebody else.
That's kind of the issue ultimately with him is I don't want to be this guy because I liked Bo Nix as a late 1st, early 2nd round pick. Now, granted, he goes higher because he's a quarterback. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't want to kind of crap all over the quarterback situation for the Broncos because I think Nix played very well as a rookie. But he is one of those guys where I do wonder, is there more to him than there was last year? Because this offense featured a lot of hand-holding of the quarterback last year. Now, granted, you probably should do that with a rookie quarterback, even one that has played as much football as Bo Nix has. But how many of those restraints are they going to allow to come off this year? And if they do that, is that going to help him and help this offense, or is it going to hurt it? I just don't really have an answer to that right now. And part of it is the fact that they didn't really, unless, again, Bryant really is like a starting receiver right off the bat, unless Evan Ingram is a huge upgrade of what they had at tight end, which maybe he will be, but he's had health issues himself, so we'll see about that. We're not going to see necessarily a better offense in terms of talent next year than they had last year.
And I mean, to be fair too to Knicks, I mean, and Peyton's offense is always going to hold a quarterback's hand
to a certain degree. Yes, yeah.
No one likes to talk about this because he did end up having a Hall of Fame career and threw for a lot of yards. But Drew Brees was a very up and down quarterback before he got to the Saints. And then Sean Payton created an offense that made it very easy for him to not make mistakes. And that's something that no one really likes to talk about too much. But he really, I don't think Sean Payton gets enough credit for Drew Brees' success.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of how much, because with any quarterback coach combo, especially ones that are offensive head coaches, right? It's hard to separate those two sometimes, unless it's so overwhelmingly clear that the quarterback is just so talented, it's insane. Now, I'm not saying Drew Brees wasn't super talented, but he was one of those quarterbacks that was very much surgical and not necessarily making these insane throws difficulty-wise all the time.
Yeah.
They didn't have to, and that's part of the point, is you don't want to have to do that all the time. That's how you end up having a Kansas City offense last year that we'll talk more about them, where it's basically, hey, get the third down and Patrick save us. It's pretty much what it was a lot of the time. And it's all right, we'll figure it out. But you look at, for example, with play calling last year, a lot of under center stuff, which, normally a lot of rookies aren't going to be doing in the NFL very well, but it did kind of make things a little bit easier for him. They had the top play action rate on second down, so they were trying to get those second down and play action plays going, especially under center. Not a lot of motion at the snap or motion in general. Kind of wanted to keep things static with that offense, not make things more kind of complicated for him to deal with. A lot of motion can help and identify stuff, but if Nix isn't really being asked to do a lot of that as a rookie, you don't need to do that much. Peyton's never really been a big motion guy. I just wonder how much of an upgrade that they're going to have at offense at all this year if they have one. So it's really going to be other stuff.
I actually think this offense might regress a bit.
It's possible.
I know people say this. I'm not going to say this with any actual evidence to prove that it's right, but I just have a
those takes
type of feeling about Bo Nix. I don't know how to explain it, and I don't have the stats to back it up. So take it with a grain of salt. But I just have a vibe about him that feels like Mac Jones for some reason. I kind of what you said earlier, Shane. I don't know how much he's able to elevate this offense, really. I mean,
yeah.
The receiving core, I'm a Marvin Mims fan, but Cortland Sutton is really it in the receiving core.
As far as guys you are confident are volume targets in this offense, yeah.
Yeah, I like RJ Harvey, but it's him and J.K. Dobbins are a solid duo. It's nothing special. I don't see any way the offense upgraded, and I do worry in that sense that Bo Nix could regress a bit, just with teams having now a full offseason of scouting on him. And I mean, last year his completed air yards were 1,703, and his passing yards after the catch were 2,072. So a big majority of his passing yards last year are all coming after the catch. His intended air yards per pass attempt were only 7.3. So if all his throws, that's as far as he was looking down the field. He was good last year, and I don't doubt that he can be a good QB. I find it hard to believe that if a defense is able to kind of shut the first things down, I don't know if he's going to be able to get past that. And that does worry me a little bit.
And the Dobbins move to me is almost irrelevant, just because we have no idea. At this point, I don't think you can count on him for anything. He is or at least to be a lead back in any way. He has never had 200 carries in a season.
No, and he shouldn't.
Yeah.
To be fair,
which is wild. Even last year,
and I don't think he'll be close to that number this year either. I don't think he should be.
No, he shouldn't be. Whether he will be or not is based on a lot of factors. But if you look at one of the things that I like to look at here with quarterbacks a lot of the time partly because I think it tells you how much of the responsibility on offense falls to them. Not in like a direct way necessarily, but I think it correlates all the time. Big time throw percentage, right? Like how many of these throws you're making and completing are throws that actually are like high level NFL throws. The leader in that category was Josh Allen last year, not a surprise. Funnily enough, number 2, Bryce Young. That's because that dude was just trying to live on here in the last few games of the season. It was just throwing unbelievable shit at the wall, and it was sticking, to be fair. But like you have guys that you expect to be up here: Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. Sam Darnold was really good at this last year, obviously, and the turnover worthy play rate was still up there too. One of the higher rates in the league, but you get that with him. Nick's was at 3.5%. That was near the bottom of the league of guys who actually threw enough passes to qualify, right? That's in the same neighborhood as guys who kind of have similar limitations to him in some ways, like Brock Purdy, Cousins, the injured Kirk Cousins, Tua, like all in that same kind of category there. Now, his turnover-worthy play rate, he did a really good job of that, not having that be a problem, but that's also Sean Payton trying to keep the rookie from imploding by not asking him to do a lot of stuff, right? Like that's part of that. And I just think if you can't improve that a little bit, if he can't make more of the big time throws and be more of a part of the offense in that way, I do wonder like how much better can he be?
Right? He did make some, like obviously he didn't do it often, but the talent is in him because he, like in the second game against the Raiders, he made a couple throws that I was actually very impressed by, and I was like, okay, like he's putting the ball in a tight window between defenders. It's a good throw. He just didn't do it very much, and he did miss a lot of chances. So I don't know. He's older than most young QBs in the league, so it's kind of how much developing has he done this offseason. That's really what it comes down to, because he at times I did see him make some really nice throws last year, but it was kind of inconsistent, and he mostly stayed away from it, which given the situation, I understand. But yeah, I just don't know at his age how much more development there still is.
That's ultimately, I think, the thing. So, but let's talk about the defense, where it's a lot more interesting, because this is already by and large one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL last year. And to me, they've only gotten better, in that regard. Now, health is a big factor with some of the big additions here, but it's still very notable. You have guys like Dre Greenlaw being brought in at linebacker. You have guys like Talanoa Hufanga, who, when he's healthy, big play safety, maybe not the most consistent safety in the world, and definitely a guy that can get banged up, but very much a big play safety back there. Those two alone, really big additions. You also bring in Jahdae Barron in the draft with the 20th pick, like as that true like nickel defender type that they were fine at last year. But if you can get a better player in there when you have Surtain on the outside, and you have, honestly, this defense was as good as it was last year. They just have more talent to try to go out and replicate it again, which honestly, a defense is important because it's hard to replicate year-over-year defensive success. So if you are going to continue to do it, adding more talent there is key.
Yeah, especially with like defense, sacks and turnovers are usually the thing that are so hard to replicate year over year.
Yeah.
So I think them just getting more solid and adding more talent is so important. But I mean, this is a team that, with the additions they made to, like, at pretty much every level of the defense, they have probably the best position group in the division. Pretty much across the board, front four, linebackers, secondary. They're pretty much one of the best or second best in the division at every single level. The linebackers, I don't think, get talked about enough in terms of how good they are. But yeah, I love the additions they made. I think Hufanga is such a underrated safety, and just because he's not going to be super flashy, but he's going to make a lot of good plays. And Jahdae Barron is going to start somewhere for this team. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And
I think he'll be the nickel right away, honestly.
Yeah, he's not listed as the starter right now, but I think that's going to be where he ends up being, as a nickel. And, I mean, dude is extremely talented. Honestly, we just talked about the Raiders. I think if the Raiders weren't going to take Ashton Genty, Barron probably would have been the best pick. especially with how bad the secondary is looking right now.
It's like take a defensive back. It doesn't matter what position he plays.
Yeah,
one of the
he's gonna be very good. And I just think like when you already have arguably the best corner in the league in Surtain, I mean, what they have around him is just absurd.
Yeah. What do you think, Jake, on that with the defense this year?
I really don't have much to say about this unit. It's really good. I think Dalton summed it up pretty well. This is just it's scary as a fan of a team in the division because I can't look at a spot on this unit and call it a weakness. And I can't really look at a spot here and call it anything close to a weakness. It's just strengths across the board. I was really surprised that they didn't go running back or receiver at number 20 in the draft this year. But, I mean, Barron just adds somehow even more talent to that secondary. They got a lot of talent on this unit. I don't know how I think this is going to be I think it's got a very good chance to be the best defense in the league.
I think that's the upside of this defense is to be the best in the league. And I think honestly, like if they're not, it's probably a little bit of a disappointment, at least not like top 5. Maybe that's, asking too much. Top 5 is kind of the bar at this point from what they did last year. And something I want to mention before we get into expectations for this team, as good as Surtain was last year, Defensive Player of the Year, obviously very well deserved, I think, considering the edge rush room. And just the edge rush in the NFL in general was a little bit up and down last year in general. The thing that I think is most notable about his season is nothing to do with his ability as a cover player. According to PFF, at least, obviously I didn't watch every snap of every game for the Broncos. He missed 0 tackles. That is fucking bonkers. I'm sorry.
I don't think I've ever seen someone with the 0 missed tackle rate.
It's just a corner too. Like, what are we doing here? How in the world do you not miss a tackle as a corner? First of all, you're in space a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So just like that's just an immediate L a lot of the time as a corner. You're just gonna lose some of those. He doesn't lose any of them. Like it's like, oh, you caught the ball for 4 yards and you're trying to run up field and break a tackle. Well, you didn't. If you played Pat Surtain last year, you didn't do that once. Like it's insane to me that no one forced a missed tackle on Pat Surtain all of last season.
Yeah.
So
he had 45 tackles and 0 missed tackles.
Yeah, that's not cool, dude. Like I was that's not cool. You can't be doing that as a corner. That's insane. Whatever. We'll see if he can replicate that. He'll be again great no matter what, most likely, but it is what it is. Expectations for 2025. I want to start with Jake here this time. What do you think the expectations should be for this team going into 2025?
It depends on how you feel about the Chiefs. If you think they're weaker, then the expectation I think should be to win the division. I mean, you're coming off a 10-7 season, a playoff berth. Got your ass kicked in the playoffs a bit, but with the rookie QB on the road against a Super Bowl contender, that's fair.
Yeah, so that'll happen to you.
You have you got your feet wet, but you're going in. The regime's been there for a few years now. You have the handpicked quarterback who had a solid rookie season. The defense should be, as Shane said, a disappointment if it's not a top 5 in the league. I mean, I think you have to expect to, at the very least, have the division come down to the last couple of weeks. And, I mean, the AFC is hard with the heavyweights up there, but a playoff win, I think, could be in there as well. Whether they get there, I don't know. But I think if I was a Broncos fan, I would be expecting to at least compete for the division this year.
All right, what do you think, Dalton?
Yeah, I think it's important here we separate hopes and expectations.
Yes.
Because, like, if you're a fan if you're the Broncos, I think you're hoping that Bo Nix takes a major step forward and this defense moves from being really good to elite, and this team can win the division and go on a deep postseason run. I think in reality, with how little talent there is on the offense, I think you're hoping the defense can do enough to carry you to the playoffs. And from there, I think I think the expectation is that the defense is good enough and the offense should be solid. I don't think this team should regress. I think the expectation is as good as last year. I think that's really, we talk pure expectations. as good as last year, I think, is kind of the bar. Anything below that would be like if they missed the playoffs this year, it'd be a huge disappointment.
Yeah. I think for me, the expectation should be to play a very competitive, if not win a playoff game in the wild card round. Like that's because what happened last year is they got hot. They were a really explosive team down the stretch in general, and then they ran into the Bills and looked like they didn't belong. Right. That's the thing that you want to avoid this year. Now, if you play a team like the Ravens or the Bills or the Chiefs in the first round, a lot of teams are going to look like they don't belong. So that's one thing last year. But I think this year, with the upgrades to the defense, with a second-year quarterback now, and hopefully a little bit more ability to put stuff on his plate than there was as rookie, you should be able to stay more competitive against the top teams in the NFL. So that's kind of, I think, what the expectation should be. And it's going to be tough in the AFC, but I think it's possible. We'll see. Let's do win total range for them real quick here. So for me, I think the floor is like 8 because this defense is so good. This offense could regress a little bit, lose a couple, close games that they won last year, and still be a good, if not, average team. So I think anything less than 8 would be really bad. Like a lot of stuff would have to go wrong for that. And then I think the ceiling is, I'll say 11 games. I don't know if they're much better than last year, if they are better. I think 11 feels like a good place to try to reach for this team, get that extra win, maybe be a little bit of a higher seed in the playoffs. Like that's kind of what I think the ceiling is for this team. I don't see them winning 12-plus games, though, in 2025.
Yeah, I just don't think there's enough talent on offense to be in that range. My win range is actually exactly what you said, 8 to 11, because I think the defense is going to be good enough that, especially with how bad the AFC is, like especially like the bottom half of the AFC, you're going to win 8 games just because, I mean, team we talked about last week, we were talking about the AFC South, the Colts are a great example that if you have a good offensive coach and you have a lot of talent on defense, it's really hard to not win 8 games right now in the NFL. It's kind of where the league's at right now. And there's a few really, really good teams and a whole lot of mid. It's kind of where we're at. So, yeah, I think 8's the floor and 11 feels right for the ceiling just because, like you said, there's just not enough talent there to really get to 12-plus wins, especially in that division.
Yeah. I'm a little bit I have the same ceiling. My floor is a little lower. My floor for this team is 6 games. I think I've seen a lot of Broncos teams with a arguable top 5 defense and a bad offense that have won 6 or 7 games. I just think this offense really scares me in the sense that it's just not a lot of talent. I mean, not a lot of pass catching talent, not a lot of talent running the ball. If Bo Nix does regress at all, I think this could be a pretty bad offense. And again, I've seen the Broncos go 7-9 or 7-10 with great defenses so many times before in the post Peyton Manning era. So with that said, I do think they're more likely to be good. I just think that's the lowest it can go. My ceiling is also 11. I think it's hard to win more than that with the division they're in, and there are enough bad teams in the AFC. They should stack some wins. Kind of like you said, though, Shane. I find it hard to think that they got a lot better this offseason. So I think 11 would probably be my ceiling.
All right, to move on to the Chargers, who I know for a fact that Dalton is particularly high on, I believe. So I'm curious what he has to say about some of the things with this team. As far as coaching changes go, nothing to note there, right? They brought in the staff they did last year. They've done a great job on both sides of the ball, I think, especially. Defense more so, but the offense looks better than I would have thought with Greg Roman coaching it and the talent they had there. And hoping for a little bit more this year, but we'll see kind of how that plays out. But the big one here is obviously Jim Harbaugh being the head coach of this team. Huge boon for them. I was a little bit concerned about the fit initially, especially when the Greg Roman hire was announced to be the offensive coordinator there. But so far, so good. I think that pairing and also, of course, the defense being coached as well as it has been huge for this team to turn around the winning aspect of this, especially with the way that they've been with Justin Herbert. You'd think they'd win more games. but they're the Chargers. So that's kind of been the problem. But now with Harbaugh there, I think things feel much different.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think Harbaugh does one thing that Harbaugh always does is win. I mean, everywhere he goes, he has success pretty much. And I think that's really, I mean, the last few years, pretty much since they've had Justin Herbert, the one thing this team's been missing is competency on the coaching staff. I mean, you could argue they went from a bottom 5 head coach in the league to a top 5 head coach in the league. So I think you're already seeing that pay dividends. But yeah, I think this is going to be, we're going to get into expectations a little later. I think this is the year where we really see like what it looks like now with Harbaugh fully in control, putting his direction in place. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, anything you want to add to coaching staff there, Jake?
Not really. You guys summed it up pretty well. Harbaugh just wins. So, yeah, it really, as a Raider fan, it sucked to see him go in the division.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was going to be the coach for the Raiders potentially for a second there, and just didn't end up happening. Now you got good old Pete Carroll. Used to battle him back in the day, right? Yeah. So we'll see.
Which, if you know anything about Mark Davis, that him picking Pete Carroll over Jim Harbaugh makes all the sense in the world.
That's true.
Like, if you've ever heard if you know anything about Mark Davis, you know he probably feels like he just likes talking to Pete Carroll a lot more than
to be fair, if I got to meet one of those two and have a conversation with them, definitely be picking Pete Carroll because that'd be way more fun to talk to probably. So there's that. Plus, I'd have to ask, now, so what's going on with Michigan? What was that about? I'd have to ask him. Like, get out of here. Got talk.
Meanwhile, if it was Al, completely opposite.
Completely different thing.
Al would hate Pete Carroll, love Harbaugh.
For sure. And, hey, what are you going to do? Let's talk about offensive moves with this team. Let's start with losses that they had because there wasn't many, but there was one that I think could be kind of notable. Like, I don't hate Josh Palmer. I kind of like that move for the Bills. Like, it just adds another player that is reliable and for the most part adds a little bit of verticality as far as like the contested catch stuff down the field. Obviously, lose J.K. Dobbins, who was good when he was healthy, but that's the problem is that he isn't ever really, at least not for any extended period of time. But not a lot of losses per se there. But I am curious to see if they can kind of replicate the receiver situation they had last year with an aging Keenan Allen. By aging, I mean aged at this point. And, of course, they do have a rookie that we'll talk about in particular, too. Really, two, because one that I was kind of a fan of late in the draft process has been showing out, to be fair. So maybe he'll have a role, too, but we'll talk about that in a minute. The offense, I think, is potentially – I don't even want to say it, but I think they are a little bit more talented overall. Like, I kind of like the Becton move, but I'm also curious if it's going to work outside of Philly. Like, that's the question with him is we haven't seen it work except for there. And if you can't work in Philly, to be fair, like you can't work anywhere. But he definitely did for them. Let's see if he can replicate it there. But I think the offensive floor is a little bit higher, but I'm not sure the ceiling is significantly higher either.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the Becton move, I don't think Becton for him, I don't think it was a change of scenery to Philadelphia as much as it was the position change.
There is a lot
I think him moving to guard, I think, is a really big part of why he had a lot more success last year. I think he's just, at this point, he's a guard, not a tackle, and that's okay. Yeah. Although they did have a big loss for this year at tackle that might be an issue with Rashawn Slater's knee not existing anymore, causing Trey Pipkins to have to actually start again, which anyone that's watched the AFC West over the last couple of years knows Trey Pipkins is not a starting tackle in the NFL, just in no way, shape, or form. But as far as the Palmer loss, when we get to draft picks in a second, I think that makes the Palmer loss a little bit easier to swallow, just because I think they literally drafted his replacement long term. And I mean, Disley is, I think, for a Greg Roman offense. I think Disley is more in the mold of what you want your top tight end to be. Just, the tight end needs to be able to block a little bit more than I think Palmer was kind of capable
well, Palmer's
of.
a receiver, Dalton. Come on, man. He's not playing tight end. Right. He's a bigger bodied receiver.
He's a big receiver. He lines up kind of weird.
I think he's like 215, like 6'3", 215. He's definitely that bigger body. Pass catcher,
But no, they got Disley at tight end, and then I think at wide receiver they have a couple guys that they got in the draft that I think are going to really elevate this. I think why I got mixed up is the guy they drafted to replace Palmer is technically a tight end.
Right. I thought when you started, I'm like, I feel like he's talking about someone else, and now I got it. So we'll talk about him. He's certainly something. I don't really know what I'd call him, but he's certainly an offensive player of some kind. We'll see what he does.
That's why.
No, that'll be fun. I want to get Jake's thoughts on this, but I also want to throw out a couple other names here. Najee Harris, who might actually miss a game for the first time in his career, maybe not, but because of a fireworks incident, the Chargers can't get out of their own way whenever it's not even on the field.
I could not believe it was so funny because it's not funny. It's not funny at all, actually. Let me preface that. Getting your eye messed up in a firework incident is not funny, but the way that Twitter went about it was funny.
Oh, very funny. Yeah.
I started seeing people talk about it, and they were referencing like a news article that said Najee Harris was blown up, and then I found a interview of someone named Najee Harris in California, and it was just some big chubby white dude who also was like somehow injured, like involved in it or something, and I was like, oh, this is the Najee Harris people are talking about. Like nothing happened. And then 2 days later, something actually did happen. That got reported. It was just the funniest way that could have came out.
Has Jason Pierre-Paul taught us nothing?
No, he's not. No, he clearly hasn't.
And I mean, you're a millionaire. Pay your unemployed cousin to light your fireworks for you. Why are you doing that?
I don't even know. I still don't know actually the story of how he got hurt with the fireworks. I don't even know if he's the one who did it.
Yeah, I don't think it's been.
He might have just been there and shit went wrong. Like that's possible too.
Fair.
But it's just like, come on, man. Like this dude, I have seen him as a Steelers fan be bent in 7 different ways on one play and just stand up and be fine. And he's never missed a game in his life. It feels like. And the one time he might miss a game is because his eye got blown up in a fireworks act. Like that's such a Chargers thing to happen. I'm sorry, it just is. Like, what am I supposed to say about that? Apparently, he could be back for week 1 now. He's practicing. That's awesome. But that's another notable move, definitely to keep an eye on there.
He doesn't need to play.
No, yeah, because then we'll talk about.
They should give him. He should get 1 carry just to keep
the streak going. Yeah. But luckily, like you guys said, and we'll talk about the draft picks, and then again, I want to kind of get Jake's thoughts on this here. Marion Hampton, first round. I'm big fan of him. Definitely love that draft pick for them. I think Najee could have been a solid player as the full-time starter this year for them and gotten probably more done than Jacob Dobbins could have, especially because he was just going to play the whole year, most likely, barring fireworks mishaps. So I did like that move either way, but bring Hampton in makes a lot more sense for the future. Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss, who I simply couldn't decide what to do with as a draft prospect, but we'll see him playing with Justin Herbert doesn't hurt, honestly. So that's helpful for him. You got Keandre Lambert-Smith, who I was actually kind of a big fan of by the end of the process, and he's looked phenomenal in the preseason training camp. He looks to have a role as that one of those deep threat type receivers for them. Rondé Gadsden, Dalton, that is the name that I thought you were talking about. And he is a tight end listed. I don't know if it really matters what he's listed at, though, because he doesn't do tight end things anyway. So it doesn't matter. No. So, yeah, those are definitely the big ones. Branson Taylor, tackle out of Pittsburgh, I think is back on the practice squad. Really, that's all the offensive moves they made in the draft. Raheem Sanders was on this team for a minute, too, as an undrafted free agent. Thought that was interesting. I don't know. I forget. I think he's on. I forget what team picked him up, but I don't think he's with the team anymore, so he won't factor into that at all. But good draft, I think, overall to upgrade the offense.
Yeah, it definitely was. I'm pretty high on this Chargers team in general, but I really like the moves they made on offense. I like their rushing attack last year with Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I think they definitely upgraded it this year. Big fan of drafting Hampton. I really like the Najee Harris edition.
For this team, it makes a lot of sense with the way
as
they
a
want to run the
Steelers
football.
writer, I've seen a lot of opinions about Najee Harris. But you can say whatever you want. He's going to get you 1,000 yards. Whether it be 1,030 yards, it's still going to be 1,000 yards. He's going to be reliable. He's going to be a workhorse. And I think that is a perfect compliment for a rookie running back who has a lot of potential, because you're not asking Hampton to come in and dominate the rushing attack by himself. I mean, he's probably, well, with a fireworks injury, I guess he's definitely going to get most of the carries to start the season. But it's so nice for him, I think, to have a guy behind him who has ran for 1,000 yards every year of his career, because it's proven production that you're going to get. So I think that takes a weight off his shoulders. I really am excited about their rushing attack this year. At receiver, I like Ladd McConkey. He had a great year.
Of course, yeah.
I think Keenan Allen definitely is aged, but I'm a little higher than most on bringing him back, because despite the Bears being such a dumpster fire last year, he actually put together a pretty good year.
He was productive.
I still think he's got some left in the tank. He knows Justin Herbert and the organization well. I like the Trey Harris edition. So yeah, I really like the moves they made. Actually, I think it's hard for me to find a move here that I didn't really like.
Yeah, what do you think, Dalton?
Yeah, I really like the Hampton fit for the Chargers. I know I talked about him on the betting show. He's my pick to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I think my main thing is, if the offensive line is as good as it was last year, and they're creating the same run lanes that they were for J.K. Dobbins.
Unfortunately,
I know it's going to be a little harder, but I think if anything, the interior of the offensive line might be better than it was last year with Becton. So there's at least that. And I mean, I think Joe Alt is going to be fine at left tackle. It's just, Pipkins is a big downgrade there. And I don't think the drop-off from Slater to Alt at left tackle is going to be huge, but the drop-off from Alt to Pipkins is massive. That's the one issue. But if they're still able to scheme run lanes, which Roman's pretty good at, if he's getting the holes that Dobbins got, I think Hampton's going to rush for 1,200 yards and probably win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I just think that he's going to kind of take the job and run with it, just because of the one thing that I don't think Harris does as much as Hampton will is create big chunk plays. And I think that's where I think Hampton's just acceleration out of the hole is going to be such a huge boost for this offense this year. And I really do like the receiver moves they made. I think Trey Harris, I was really high on him coming out. I just think he's a really good fit because of the downfield threat and also the ability to do some stuff in the screen game, which is going to be a little bit more what this offense is. He's really just a very versatile wide receiver for someone who on paper looks like a pretty run-of-the-mill vertical threat on paper. The tape shows he did a lot in the screen game at Ole Miss, and a lot in the short passing game as well. But he can still take the top off of defense because he does have the long speed and the size to do that. I do think he's going to be a really good complement to McConkey. And then you have just a bunch of other big bodies in Gadsden and now bringing back Keenan Allen. And then Lambert Smith is kind of a little more similar to some of the things that McConkey brings to the table. So you get a little bit of that there as well. I just think they have a really good and also Lambert Smith has the speed as well. I just think there's so many different things that this wide receiver group can do. It really allows for a lot more balance. And I think after last year, teams are going to be selling out to stop the run against the Chargers. And I think that is going to open up Herbert. And I think Herbert, after I don't know, he was pretty limited in what he was able to do and what the offense asked him to do. I think you're going to see him kind of go back to having a little bit bigger role in the offense, but I do think this is still going to be a run-first team.
Yeah, I think they're more equipped to do that this year. Last year they did it because they wanted to, not because they were necessarily super equipped to do so. right now they can lean into that. I think with the two backs they have, assuming Harris is healthy, which he should be. It's just going to be a much different version of the same idea, I think, next year with them. Defensively, this is one of the stranger teams to talk about defensively because by a lot of metrics, this was one of the best defenses in the NFL last year. But then you look at the roster and you're like, how are we doing this? And the answer, to be honest with you, is twofold. They played a shit ton of zone, more than anyone else in the league, and they blitzed in a very specific and very effective way to allow them to be able to get away with playing pretty much entirely zone coverage. I mean, they played less than 12% man coverage overall as a team last year. And the reason for that is look at the corner room. Let's be honest about it. Like, most of these guys were rookies or players who were coming off terrible seasons in the case of Christian Fulton, who is now gone with the Chiefs now. But still, they just didn't have a lot of talent on this team, and they were able to get away with it because of the way they schemed stuff up. And that's great. But the only guy who's really been able to do that in consecutive years in recent memory to this level is Brian Flores, who now has more talent on that team than he had before and doesn't have to do as much of that type of stuff. Can they do it again with still not that, they have better talent, I think, in general, but not that much more. Realistically, I just don't know if they can replicate it. It's just not easy to do in the NFL, especially without the talent.
Yeah, the D-line and edge room is by far the worst in the division. It's so bad. I mean, the closest thing to talent they have up front is Khalil Mack. And
still a really good player.
Still a really good player, but he's probably not going to be a 13-plus sack a year guy anymore. And also, there's nobody to complement him on the other side. And they don't have anything in the middle really to stop the run. It's just not great. And then you look at the linebackers. I mean, if Denzel Perryman is your starting linebacker, and this was the case several years ago, if Denzel Perryman was your starting linebacker, you were probably in rough shape.
Yeah.
The fact that he is still starting in 2025 is wild.
It's unfortunate because,
the other guy they got.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The other guy they got solid, but I mean, I don't know. They just didn't really do anything to really add talent to a unit that desperately needs talent. If anything, they got worse on that side of the ball.
This defense is a huge meh to me. It's just looking at their depth chart. Dalton brought up Denzel Perryman. I mean, Bud Dupree is on there. He's still kicking around. They have some decent young players they picked up in the draft this year, but none of those are really going to make too big of an impact this year.
I don't think
it's just so much of to me across this unit.
And you look at Dion Henley, I really like. I think he has potential to be one of the best cover linebackers in the NFL. With his safety background, with the speed and the agility he possesses, that's great. But again, if your number two linebacker is Denzel Perryman at this point, now granted they wanted it to be Junior Colson, he's now going to miss the year. Didn't have a good year as a rookie either, so that's tough. But you're missing out on a lot there. Tuli Pelotu is a good player. Is he a number one edge rusher long term when Mack isn't there anymore? Probably not. I think he's a part of that edge rush, but he's not going to be the guy there. I have a lot of hope for Jamari Caldwell, but it's asking a rookie to step in there and do what Poona Ford did last year, which was phenomenal. He was phenomenal for this defense as a run defender. He was literally just a stump in the middle of the defense that you could not move. Don't know if you're going to get that from the other guys that they brought in there. If this defense isn't going to regress at all, it'd be a miracle in my opinion. And that's nothing to do with the coaching, nothing to do with any of that, but it's hard to do what they did last year in consecutive years without a serious upgrade somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're relying on a lot of growth from guys in the secondary,
Cam Hart, Tarp Still, yeah.
That's
they could.
Yeah, Alohi Gilliman's a nice addition. We're talking about moves. Right, they just brought him in this year, I believe. Correct?
He's been there for I think his whole career. He's been with the Chargers.
Who am I mixing him up with?
Elijah Molden, maybe. Last year they brought him in.
Yeah, I thought they made one move this year on in the secondary.
Benjamin St. Just is a new addition.
Yeah.
They drafted R.J. Mickens out of Clemson, who's fine. Dante Jackson's back, or is not back, but is on this team. He was not good for Pittsburgh, so I don't know if that's going to work out very well. But they did turn Christian Fulton into a legit starting corner last year, so maybe anything's possible. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird unit. The one thing I'll say about the linebackers, like thinking about it more, if you are going to have someone like Perriman, Henley does complement him well because Perriman you can just dictate. You can just have stop the run. But, I mean, Perriman cannot cover anybody.
He's going to be targeted when they have two linebackers on the field, right? Like, they're just going to. Like, they're not going to throw a Diane Henley if they can throw a Perriman instead. Like, can he blitz? Sure. Like, he can do that. Like, you can send him on blitzes. They like to do that stuff.
You make tackles.
Yeah, but it's just, it would be nice if Junior Colson was here and healthy and good. But he's none of those things right now, so it's kind of an issue. This defense was great last year. It's just hard to expect them to be better, especially, and if they can replicate that, that's great. But I mean, or is anyone really at least here with us? Like, do we really think that that's likely with this group for them to get to be even as good as they were last year? Maybe it's possible, but likely? I don't know. I think that's asking a lot.
Yeah, I think that's really it. You hope they're able to do the same thing again, like just play kind of bend but don't break defense, and hope it works.
And if they're as good as they were last year, Jesse Minter is going to be a head coach. So you're going to have to figure it out after next year if he does it again. Like if he could take a unit that looked like it did last year and then do the same thing again, someone's going to hire him to be a head coach. That's just probably what's going to happen. Right, like coming from that Mike McDonald tree that's going to start developing defensively, at least across the league. Like, I think he could get head coaching interviews at least next year if he does it again. So, my expectations for 2025. I definitely want to hear Dalton's first because I know that you were definitely, I think, of the three of us, probably the highest on this team coming into the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think after last year, you expect to compete in the division, especially like when you have a quarterback at the level that you have in Justin Herbert, who I do think is one of at least minimum top 10 quarterback in the league, if not better. I think really, you hope that the offense is so good that they can control the ball, consistently put up 24 to 30 points, and your defense can play bend but don't break. And, you can just play good NFL football and just, keep beating teams by 3 to 6 points every week. I think you expect to be competing in a division where I think the Chiefs are the most vulnerable they've probably ever been in the Mahomes era. And so I think you look at that division and you say it's time to make a change with who's winning it, and I think the Chargers have a possible path to doing that.
What do you think, Jake, with expectations, what they should be?
I think a playoff win should be the expectation. They really should have had it last year if they didn't melt down against the Texans in the wild card round in a typical Chargers fashion. But I think, you need to – they're going to get there just off of coaching and the talent they have on their offense. I don't know if they win the division, but they should have a wild card game for sure. I think it's just this year has to be about winning a playoff game and kind of taking the what if label off of Justin Herbert. I don't think that's really too much to ask for them. The defense is a little questionable for sure, but I mean, they're going to run the ball a lot. If you can control the tempo of the game, the clock with the run, Justin Herbert can make the throws. They should find themselves, I think, in a similar situation as last year in the postseason. You just have to be able to take care of business. But I think they should expect to, at the very least, be competing in a close playoff game and probably win it.
All right. I think for me, the expectation is for this offense to get to a level where you feel good about Justin Herbert long-term, because as good as he is, if you can't make an offense work the way you want it to with him, you just aren't going to do it with anyone. Like, you're not getting an upgrade over him. So you have to make this offense look like a top 10 offense, both rushing and passing, in my opinion, especially with the way the defense could look if they can't replicate what they did last year. You need to make sure that Greg Roman is the guy that can coordinate an offense with Justin Herbert running it, right? Last year, it was better than I thought it would be, and now you have more talent. So I need to see it again, and I need to see more production in the passing game, especially, but the running game too. Like, they ran the ball a lot, not super effectively overall. Like, it's kind of the issue, right? If you can up the efficiency on both sides of the ball, there, or both sides of the offense there, I will be excited about that, because the defense, it's hard to really project at this point. So it's all about making sure that offense is as good as it can be. I'll see win total range here. Dalton, I want to start with you again here. Where do you see this team landing as far as floor and ceiling?
I think the floor, assume like if the floor is worst case scenario, the defense is really, really bad, and the offense is still just not able to carry them. The offense is better, but I think, I don't know if a Greg Roman offense is ever going to be super explosive. That's just not really kind of the way he calls plays. They're not going to, even with Lamar Jackson creating a lot of explosive plays in spite of his offenses. Those teams still weren't very explosive. So I just don't see the offense being able to carry. If the defense regresses a ton, I could see it being pretty rough. But even then, I just don't see a Harbaugh coach team being under 8 wins. I think that's kind of the floor, similar to the Broncos. However, I do think the ceiling on this team is much higher, because I do think the offense could be really, really good. And the defense, I think they found a way last year to at least be, average to above average at times. So if they can do that again, I could see them winning the division and winning 13 games. I think that's the absolute ceiling.
All right, what do you got, Jake? I'm curious there.
I'm gonna go 8-12. I think a Jim Harbaugh coach team with Justin Herbert at quarterback should win 8 games at the least, with the talent they have on offense. I could see. I don't see this as really a shootout team, even with Herbert at quarterback, just because of how much they're going to run the ball. But I think that helps with the defense being as bad as it could potentially be. So I don't think this team could lose less than 8 games, but 12 could get it done in the division. If the Chiefs do take a step back, I could see, if they win this series against them or something, I could see them winning the division there. But I think with how talented their defense is against some of the teams in the AFC, I think 12 is about as good as it can get. But if I had to guess, I would say 11 wins. But yeah, I would go from 8-12.
Yeah, I have the same range, 8-12. I think 13 is pushing it a little bit, because that would, to me, require the defense to be just as good and probably a little bit better. Plus the offense being a tick better too. They won 11 games last year. I think winning 2 more when you're already at that 11, win is it's tough, right? Like, so I think 12 is a better, like, high-end outcome for this team, especially with the division the way that it is right now. You're going to have to win at least, probably, if you want to win 12 games, probably 4 of your division games, and that's not a given in this division this year. So I'll go with 8-12 there. And we won't spend as much time on this last team, because what else is there really to say about the Chiefs? That hasn't been said a million times, but we know there's no coaching staff changes unless Matt Nagy for some reason gets another opportunity somewhere. There probably won't be for a while with this group. We know it's about Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and what they can do on offense and defense, having essentially 2 head coach level coordinator types on offense and defense there. Like, that's really not in question here. We kind of know that about them. I think we want to skip right to offensive moves here. And I think what they did in terms of, what they lost, which was a lot of guys that just frankly weren't good enough to get it done outside of Joe Thuney, who they trade because they want to be able to keep Trey Smith at guard instead of him being the much younger player. Not as good overall as Thuney, but it makes sense for them to want to pay the younger player and keep him around. Again, a lot of what they lost is guys that just couldn't really get it done, right? Weren't the answers. DeAndre Hopkins, Mecole Hardman, Justin Watson. Like the receivers depth there just wasn't really good enough. Carson Wentz is now at Viking, which for some reason feels funny to me. I don't really know why. Like I'm not really sure where I'm at with that one, but we'll talk about the Vikings next week. And then they bring back guys that I think mostly make sense. Like we talked about Trey Smith being retained and re-signed there, extended. Kareem Hunt is still kicking around here. That's hilarious to me. Good old Juju Smith-Schuster out here still, or I like to refer to him as Doo-Doo Shit Poopster personally. That's my favorite name for him. No offense to him. Marquise Brown comes back after really having a lost season last year. We'll see if he can kind of have a better chance of getting into this lineup and actually making a difference opposed to missing most of the year. And on offense, your favorite quarterback, Gardner Minshew, is here as the backup here, guys. So that's interesting. Elijah Mitchell, who if healthy is theoretically good, but never is healthy at all, which, great. And Jalen Moore, I guess, is a big addition. They're paying him $50 million a year.
Why?
I mean, in case they didn't take a tackle in the first round, I guess, and he wasn't healthy, but it looks like he's going to be, so it's fine. Expensive backup, but I guess, maybe if Suamate is as bad as he was last year, they can throw him in at guard instead of him, so that might work out. But again, like a lot of moves on the fringes, which is going to make sense for a team that is paying Patrick Mahomes a lot of money and a lot of other guys a lot of money. They're not going to have a lot of money to throw around. A lot of, kind of moves on the fringes on offense. And then we'll talk about the draft before we kind of just talk about this overall. Josh Simmons is the big one here at tackle out of Ohio State. If he's healthy, to me, was at worst the third best tackle in this class. If he's fully healthy, make an argument for one, in my opinion, personally, with his pass protection the way that it was at Ohio State. But there's some other guys that were up there too. Jalen Royals, receiver, might have to play a good bit early on with the receiver group, with Rashee Rice suspended and other guys kind of being so far. And then one that I think could have an impact or could not, it really is hard to say with this team, but Rashard Smith is an interesting kind of third down back for them too. All those offensive moves in consideration here, I think it all comes down to, are they going to be closer to the Chiefs of the past 2 years on offense, or are they going to be closer to the one that was the much more explosive Chiefs offense several years ago? That's really what's going to separate them from last year potentially on offense, is can Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown and all these other guys that do have explosion, that they do have burst, can they actually get this deep passing game going and just the explosive plays in the passing game going again?
Yeah, I think really what it's going to come down to, if it's going to work for the Chiefs' offense, is did the offensive line moves work? Because the offensive line is literally the number one reason why they did not win the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they were a Super Bowl caliber team. They just didn't have an offensive line. And I don't know. You're relying pretty heavily on a rookie to come in and be a very good left tackle. I mean, he can't be worse than what Joe Thuney was last year at left tackle.
Because he's not a left tackle.
No. He's barely a guard anymore.
I still think he's a good player, but I get it, yeah.
Yeah. And then on the other side, you bring in Jalen Moore, and for what you're paying him, he's not able to beat out Jawan Taylor at the other tackle spot. That's a little concerning.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I just don't really see that offensive line being a ton better than they were last year. I don't know. I'm also not as high on Simmons as I know you guys were. Mm-hmm. And it's also Simmons has to stay healthy.
Right, which so far so good, but we'll see. Yes,
and then
you never know.
You look at the running back room, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco being your top running back is just – it's not exciting at all. The wide receiver room, again, it's okay. It would have been really good 3 years ago. This room. But that's kind of the issue. I just don't really know what you're going to get out of that wide receiver room. They'll find a way to make it work because Andy Reid always does.
Yeah. But Travis Kelce another year older and also going to be married soon, so he's probably going to fuck off into the sunset. I know I would if I was him. But it's a lot of question marks on this offense still. And if it was any other team, I'd be much more concerned. But because it's the Chiefs, I'm kind of like, it'll probably be fine.
Yeah, that's kind of the boat that I'm in. I mean, on paper, there definitely are reasons to expect regression, but I mean, a couple years ago they started like 3-3 or 3-4 or something, and then went back. I think they won the Super Bowl that year. There was the year actually where the Raiders beat them on Christmas. We were talking about earlier. Had some real struggles toward the end of the regular season that year. It didn't end up mattering. Last year they probably were the least impressive one-loss team that I've ever seen, and they still got to the Super Bowl. So I need to see them disappoint me in terms of expectations before I expect that to happen. So I agree with pretty much every reason that people have for why they might regress offensively, but I just refuse to believe it until I see it.
That's kind of where I'm at too, where like, sure, like in a vacuum, could this team be worse on offense? Maybe. It was already kind of hard to watch at times last year, and it just didn't matter because they were one of the worst teams success rate wise in first and second down, but they were easily number one and third because they have Patrick Mahomes a quarterback and Andy Reid calling plays. Like they need to get better at being more successful in early downs so that they don't have to rely on it as much and can actually allow them to play with more kind of not reckless abandon, but more aggressiveness, which Patrick Mahomes just hasn't been able to do the past couple of years for a number of reasons. That's how you unlock like a truly like unstoppable version of the Chiefs that we saw a couple of years ago. But until they prove otherwise, they will figure it out, right? Like you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt there. And defensively, I think honestly they're a more of a defensive team at this point than they are an offensive team in a lot of ways. Like in terms of the high end play that you'll see from this team, a lot of it is on defense at times. So that's again interesting considering they have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, and that's kind of why I think honestly, like in a lot of ways, Mahomes is emulating Brady a little bit here with the way he's played the past couple of years of like play unbelievably sound situational football, makes plays when he's required to, but isn't going to necessarily put up gaudy stats all the time. He's kind of become that type of quarterback recently out of necessity because of the way the offense is built and because the defense can do a lot of that stuff for him. Talking about moves on defense, let's move over there. So they do lose to Sean Wharton to the Panthers, one of their interior pass rushers. Justin Reed moves on to the Saints. That's a big loss, I think, potentially, although I do like the guys that they have, especially one of them in there that could potentially replace him. As far as additions they made there on defense, Christian Fulton comes in on a 2-year, $20 million deal, cashing in on his season with the Chargers last year. Jerry Tillery is here. That's funny to me. I don't really know how to feel about that, but whatever. Mike Pennell comes back. He's always seemingly available and just plays good run defense and moves on to the next season pretty much every year. And then in the draft, you have some interesting guys that they brought in. Omar Norman-Lott is one of the harder evaluations of this past draft class because he played like 300 snaps all year because Tennessee is insane with how they do their D-line rotations, but he played a couple hundred of the best pass rush snaps you've ever seen over the interior pretty much. Like he was unbelievable winning inside there. So let's see if he can replicate it in the NFL. They might not need to play him more than he played last year in college, but it's still weird that he played as little in college last year. Ashton Gelati is an interesting power edge out of Louisville. Not really a guy that I had on my radar this early. They took him at pick 66, but it's the Chiefs that'll work out knowing them. Noel Williams, a corner, very much a Chiefs corner. Like it was very much like I'm pretty sure that Spagnuolo walked in the room and was like, "Yeah, I'll take that California kid." He's like, "All right, cool." Like that's what it feels like to me. Like we'll see if he plays much at all this year. Jeffrey Bossa, he was very much like an ho-hum linebacker for me overall. Like the linebacker class was not good, so like that's part of it. He'll be a special teamer. So again, not a lot of significant changes on this defense, but it is one of the better defenses in the NFL. So maybe a lot of changes wasn't necessarily needed.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Bossa is he doesn't have to play anytime soon
because they have a trio of linebackers.
They have arguably the best linebacker room in the league.
Especially three deep, absolutely, no question. Yeah. Maybe duos that are better, definitely not three deep. I mean,
it's wild. The defensive line, you have Jones and Karlaftis.
Yeah, that's about it. That's about it. Yeah.
What's that?
That's about it. Yeah, that's really about it. I hope our Norman-Lott can figure it out.
Jerry Tillery continues his tour to AFC West.
He'll be a Bronco next year. Don't worry.
He will be a Bronco next year. Absolutely. But I mean, that's the thing, that the front four is going to be okay. But again, the linebackers are good enough that they're going to make up for a lot of the issues, especially against the run. And they also can help in coverage because the secondary is not great. The secondary is good enough. And again, it's just a bunch of okay talent for the most part.
Nate Duffy's really the guy that's the headliner there. It's other than him, it's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, Spagnuolo moves guys around though and blitzes really crazily and makes it work. I mean, really the best part of this whole roster is the coaching staff. I mean, that's the thing. Like if you had any other coaching staff in the league and this roster, I think we'd all be very worried about the Chiefs being a 500 team. I mean, if we're being completely honest, I mean, there's a few really good players, but I mean, if you took, I don't know, the Giants coaching staff or the Jets coaching, like just a replacement level coaching staff, right?
Yeah.
And gave them this Chiefs roster, I think they'd struggle to win 9 games.
That's fair. I mean, the Mahomes factor is hard to quantify, but the lack of passing game, like precision and the lack of offensive play calling would still definitely hurt him to some degree. So yeah, it'd be tough. Any thoughts on defense, Jake? Anything you thought was interesting that they brought in? Like, I think Fulton's interesting, but like, I don't know what version they're going to get. Right? With Spagnuolo, you assume a good one, but yeah.
I trust Spagnuolo to just raise the level of this defense no matter what it's at. But
yeah.
Even this unit, kind of with him leading it, it's kind of like it's just going to end up being good enough, I think.
Yeah, that's probably what they're hoping for. So expectations, because this should be the simplest of any team we pretty much talk about in this series. The expectation, I think, is to win the Super Bowl, and if you don't, it's not good enough. Frankly, when you're the Chiefs, I don't think anything else really works as an expectation.
Yeah. Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, and it will be every year that Mahomes is there unless things really fall apart at some point. So that's kind of where we're at with that team. That one's not hard to do. The win total range, I think, is very interesting because I made a decision based on like historical things with that, more so than just like what I actually think of this team. But I want to start with Jake here. What do you think the win total range is going to be here?
I'm going to go 11 to 15.
All right.
I think I don't. It's hard for me to imagine Mahomes winning 10 games or less. And I think the most accurate I could predict would be like 12 or 13 wins because I still do think this is a good team, but they're not going to get as many breaks as they got last year. So they got some insane breaks last year, especially in their own division. So I think it's got to be 11 to 15 for me. I can't see them winning more than that just because there are some problems with this roster, but I cannot see Mahomes winning 10 games or less. My brain can't envision that.
Yeah. Dalton, where are you at with it?
Yeah. I mean, my floor is 10 wins. This just gives – I'm getting a lot of vibes that this is the beginning and the end for the Chiefs in terms of like what they are right now.
Right. I'm just going to say right now, hold on, before you say anything else, I'm not necessarily like fully disagreeing with you, but that is going to be a clip that I'm going to have to make if it doesn't work out that way. Just for the content, it's going to have to be a clip.
It reminds me of like right now, this version of the Chiefs reminds me of like the mid 2000s Eagles, towards the end of the McNabb-Reed run. Okay. I don't think Andy Reid's got many years left.
That's fair. Yeah,
I don't think he's going to be coaching much longer. And I don't know. It's hard to put too much into this, but I don't know. The Travis Kelce engagement announcement. I know it sounds silly. I know it sounds absurd to factor this in at all, but it just
engagement farming at the best. Let's do it.
It's definitely his last year, and I think
I hope so for his sake. Honestly, he did not look good last year. Times
no, he's done, and I just think that he already had to in crunch time had to carry that passing game a lot of the time, and he really can't anymore. I mean there were a couple plays in the playoffs where he caught passes that you thought for sure he was gonna take off and run for a touchdown, and then got tackled at the 20. Just because he's kind of done.
He doesn't have the gas anymore.
He can still find a way to get open, and
he'll do the run around, do the fake route thing, and just find space. He could probably do that till he's 40 if he wanted to. It's just, can he actually do anything once he catches the ball anymore? That's the question at this point.
Yeah, and I just think the Chiefs are hitting a point where I just don't know how sustainable the way they're winning is. I mean, last year felt like I still don't know how they made it to the Super Bowl last year. I don't think they really had a ton of business being there. They made it work, but I mean, it was ugly. It was ugly for most of the season. Yeah. I mean, as someone that watched them almost lose to a Gardner Minshew Raiders team, I think was O'Connell playing by then?
I think
it was. Yeah. Aiden O'Connell was this
fumbling
close to being 2-0 against Patrick Mahomes. He was this close to being 2-0 against Mahomes. That would be the funniest stat
of all time.
Genuinely, that was at the point in the year where I wanted them to just tank. But that was I was so excited to just be able to say that O'Connell was 2-0 against Mahomes. But I mean, that's an example. There's no way the Chiefs should have won that game. They did not deserve to win that game at all.
No. The thing that the Chiefs do better than anyone else at this point is they do not beat themselves, and they will let the other team beat themselves. They will give you the runway to fuck up, and when you do, they will always take advantage of it.
Yeah,
that's just what it comes down to.
Say, my win total range, at worst 10 wins to still make the playoffs. Ceiling 13 wins, and they find a way to sneak into the Super Bowl.
All right. So my win range is actually similar to Jake's, but I have it as 11 to 14. The reason I have it at 11 is because obviously Mahomes being there is a huge factor of this. But the last time the Chiefs won less than 10 games, so I will say 10 as a floor also makes sense to them, but the Mahomes factor for a lot of those years is 11 plus, was 2014. That's the last time they won less than 10 games. I feel like the floor being 11 makes a lot of sense. Now the ceiling, I have a 14 because I think 15-2 is really hard to do in the NFL, and this Chiefs team is not a team that I'm going to say can repeat that feat like they did this past year without a lot of the same lucky moments, because this played more like a 12-5 really solid football team in the regular season, not so much 15-2 team. They could repeat that again, but only if things are actually better and not just them getting the same luck, right? You're probably not going to have Geno Smith drop the ball when you have a chance to beat him. He's probably not going to do that. No offense to Aiden O'Connell. Actually, kind of offense to Aiden O'Connell. Yeah. And then you look at the Broncos game where, what the hell happened with that? What was that about? I still can't believe that game went the way it did. It's unlikely that they win 15. Winning 15 games is really fucking hard to do no matter how good you are, right? That's just what it comes down to, even with 17 games now. I won't project them to win 15, but 14 I think is totally achievable if they are actually better on offense this year. And that'll do it for the AFC West. Another long show it's going to be with these previews. We also spent an hour on the Raiders, which, to be fair, a lot to talk about the Raiders compared to the other
50 minutes too much.
Yeah. But no, that was definitely fun to talk about them. But should be, I think this division and then one other division that we've yet to talk about are probably going to be the two best overall divisions in the NFL next year. So we'll see, but they have the chance to be that.
There's a world where I do think there's a lot of scenarios where all four teams, if the Raiders find a way
their
to be
ceiling,
it could be, all four teams might make the playoffs in this division.
It's possible.
Mostly because
that'd be insane.
I talked about this though the other day on the betting show. Who else is going to get a wild card spot in the AFC? I mean, the Colts maybe. The Bengals.
You can't count out my Steelers, Dalton. No matter how
the
much
Steelers, I
die.
guarantee one wild card spot is going to the Steelers. It's just gonna happen.
They're gonna find a way to do it. They're gonna be 10-7.
It's probably gonna be the lowest wild card seed, but it's gonna happen. And then, there's not a lot after that.
They're gonna play the Chiefs in the wild card, get absolutely destroyed, and we're gonna do it all again next year. We're gonna do it again, folks. Trust me. I'll be talking about it.
If you do it again, though, Aaron Rodgers is not going to commit to doing it all again until.
That's what you. Oh yeah, he probably will wait that.
I'm gonna pretend that he doesn't exist the second the clock strikes 0 on the Steelers season. That's what I'm going to do. And until actually proven otherwise fully, like he signs a contract, like there's a picture of him doing it. That's going to be my strategy as of like whatever day in January.
Just wait until. Just wait until no matter how this season ends, it's going to go all the way up until the draft. And
if this team doesn't draft a quarterback because he wants to come back, I quit. I give up.
No, they're not going to. And Mike Tomlin is going to say, "Oh, I just have so much respect for Aaron Rodgers and his career." And okay, we're going off on it.
Yeah,
they'll take one, and then he'll decide he's coming back the day after they take one.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be the worst thing.
Yep, that's the end of the show, guys. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Jake, I'm cutting off. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna stop.
I was kidding. No, we will talk about that team next week. I'm going to try to get enough people together to do an NFC and AFC North show before the season officially kicks off on Thursday. But if not, we'll probably try to fit one in between the Thursday game and the actual real official start of the season when we have all the teams pretty much playing. So look out for that next week. We will have our betting show next week, a little bit later than usual. We do have some schedule shifting here. Dalton in particular has to go coach lacrosse, I believe is what it is, right? Dalton. So we'll be starting a little bit later on Wednesdays most likely, but definitely keep checking us out there.